way there. You just can't go for the throat right away, right?
Well, we just asked a simple question about the Ark, if he thinks it was real.
Okay. Roy, do you think that the Ark existed?
Yeah.
Alright, so, do you think that there was dinosaurs on the Ark?
Yeah.
That would be a point of contention between me and you, Roy.
Alright, then
existed, but dinosaurs on it,
I don't know if Roy was serious or not, but
oh, I'm dead serious. Absolutely. Oh yeah. God created the dinosaurs on the same day he created man.
I think that if Roy were a Poe or something like that,
hold on a second. Let Roy talk. Hey, guys, hold on a second.
I haven't seen him for on this road.
okay, Roy, I can't defend you anymore because I can't go any farther.
Hold on a second. Just Roy, if you want to go ahead, Roy. I'm on your side. If you want to talk, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No. You were saying that you do believe this and it's not a joke. So they, you're stating your position, and I appreciate it. Roy, go ahead. Though. You're stating your position.
Yeah, my position is the same as God's. So if God said it, I believe it. It's really that simple.
Alright, so...
And if man says it, and man is in opposition of what God said, then man gets overridden by God, because I can't go, oh, well, I believe all these things that you said here, God, but mankind has got evidence that you're wrong about making the dinosaurs and humans on the same day. You were just wrong about that, Lord, and here's evidence to prove it. It's the scientific method. I can't do that, guys.
You're smarter than scientists, aren't you, Roy? Yeah, carbon dating's all bullshit, isn't it, Roy?
Hold on. One topic at a time, Johnny May. Sai or Ocean, you want to ask him any more questions about the dinosaurs?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't care.
Nice. Neither do I.
You don't care about what?
Here is my piece about dinosaurs on the Ark. Roy, I disagree with you.
And you can, because not only does God allow you to disagree with me, but I agree with God that you can disagree with me, who believes what God is saying, and that's as simple as that. It's like either you believe God or you don't.
Got it. Still disagree with you. And that's it. That's the end. That's the extent of my caring. I don't have any questions for him beyond that.
You know what?
It doesn't matter to me.
I don't need to know how God put every single animal on planet Earth into the ark with Noah and his wife and their 3 sons and their wife. I don't need to know how he did it to understand that it actually took place. Just like I'll say it over and over again. I don't know how God put a cow together either, but that doesn't say, I'm not going to say that that's not true.
I think it actually happened too. I just have a different vision of it than you do.
Right.
But,
I have no problem with that. I'm not here to bash everybody over
our disagreement is we don't care about it. Other people want us to care about it. I'm going to be like, Roy, you believe what you want. I'll believe my side of it. And I don't care.
Okay. You know, guys. There's probably just off the top of my head, there's probably 10,000 topics that the Bible can produce for me to talk about. And
I didn't waste time on this. There's way more interesting conversations.
You're not wasting
my point. Ocean, that's my
point. There are dinosaurs. Hold on a second.
More exciting.
There are dinosaurs on an ark with human beings. This is very interesting to me. Okay. Don't say that. Don't say this topic is boring. You just meant.
It's totally boring.
No, it's totally boring to me because the Flintstones got it right. Didn't you watch the Flintstones? They got it right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was a documentary, wasn't it, Roy?
It was. It was a documentary in animated form where dinosaurs and mankind lived, and there were grotto burgers, yum, and there were...
They slid down the back of the brontosaurus.
You guys being trolled by Roy hardcore.
Don't worry, we can put up with it.
We're not being trolled.
He's not trolling you guys. He really isn't. I don't detect any trolling out of him.
Yeah, he's not clone.
The Flintstones is historically accurate.
The Flintstone thing is he's joking, okay? That's a joke, but the Ark thing is not a joke.
No, I want to hear him say that that's a joke. I don't think it is.
You think what's a joke?
About him saying that the Flintstones is accurate.
Yeah, that's a joke.
He said it's a documentary.
Yeah, he was being sarcastic, okay? Roy, you do believe the Ark story though with the dinosaurs though. There's no debating that, right?
When God said that he put every animal on planet Earth on the ark, 2 by 2, some 7, I do believe that to be absolutely factually true, yes.
Okay, now I know you're saying that I shouldn't ask you this because God works in mysterious ways, but hypothetically, let's talk about this, okay? How do you think that he fit a T-Rex or a Brontosaurus or a Megasaurus on the ark?
Well, obviously, he you know, if you've ever seen that commercial for Taco Bell where the little Chihuahua says, "I got to get a bigger box." Well, God had to have the right size boat, if you will, or ark, if you prefer.
Roy, the answer is really simple. Noah opened the door, he put the dinosaur in, and then he closed the door.
Well, actually, God closed the door, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, that's right. Okay. So Noah opened the door, he put the dinosaur in, and then God closed the door.
Well, if you guys want to get real technical, I can get a little more technical now that we're on this topic. So God was in the boat, in the ark, and he said, Noah, come into the ark, and then God closed the door, and then some X amount of days, weeks, months later, he opened the door, and everybody came back out and repopulated planet Earth. That's the extent of what I want to have as far as a conversation. How many square feet it was, how many cubic feet it was, how did they survive, where's all the food, what you do with all the food. I really don't care.
Oh, because you're not having a good answer. That's why you're not answer the questions.
Okay, I'm cutting in for a second here. I'm not sure exactly when this is cutting off. Just for the sake of the audience, I will be taking over the stream once it goes off air, and then it's my show. Go ahead.
Oh, cool. Hey, did you see how long ago it started? I don't know if he's got it on a, you know.
We're heading toward the 8-hour mark. The last warning I got was 1 hour warning, and that was let me take a look.
So how much time to 8 hours, Shadow?
That was at 3:58. It's 4:17, so it'll be a little bit.
Like
Are
what,
you
an
going
hour
to
ago?
continue the broadcast from this room, even?
Oh yeah, I will be. I'm simply taking over the broadcast. For that matter, X, if you want to cut it early, you're more than welcome to.
But Roy, can't you see the absurdity of putting dinosaurs that are the size of the Empire State Building onto an ark?
And I'm going to restart the XSplit. Damn it.
Again, I don't know how God did it.
Let me fix
You're gonna
that.
have to take
Little baby dinosaurs.
You know, I mean,
Because, like, you know, even the biggest dinosaurs at hatchlings are about the size of a puppy.
How do
I
you
think
keep
they
the
were-
dinosaurs
I think they
from-
laid eggs.
How do
I
you keep
think-
the dinosaurs from attacking the rabbits and the tiger from attacking the rabbits and et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, see, again, I don't know how God did that, but he did that. That's all I need to know. And if you want to judge God, I don't want to be anywhere near you when judgment time comes. That's all I gotta
Well,
say.
I'm going to judge God big time. You want to know why, Roy? You want to know why? Because God killed over 2.5 million people in the Bible and Satan killed 10, okay? I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't see it that way, but that's okay.
Well, it's in the Bible, Roy. You got to read your Bible, buddy.
Satan killed directly 10 people.
Roy, it's in the Bible.
One second,
All right,
Roy, let me tell you why I focus on the negative. Because this is a omniscient, perfect being. If he is perfect and omniscient, why does he have to directly murder people?
Okay, this is your judgment call on God. If you were an umpire, it would stand, right? Even if you call a strike that isn't a strike, it still stands. You're the umpire. Unfortunately, God did not make you the judge of himself. He told you.
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay,
sorry.
you can't talk over me because I can't even think, so I'll just be quiet.
I just said go ahead. Okay,
I'm going to
Nadia.
tell you for the last time. I don't mind having a dialogue with anybody, but if you talk over me, I'm done. Okay, I can't do this seriously. If you understand, I got 3 memory cells in my head, and if I'm talking and you're talking, I can't even hear myself think. So if you want to have a discussion with me and ask questions, I don't mind answering you, but do not, I repeat, do not ever again talk over me, because that will be it. I will never talk to you again because I don't need to. I think you have enough in you to be able to do that. Is that correct, Down?
There's some lag on both ends, Roy. Don't take it so personal. Go ahead, though.
You're the only one that does it. I never had this problem with Sai.
Actually, if we're going to focus on the negative, at that point I should step in.
You go for it, girl.
When you actually go for the negative, though, you make actual valid points normally. That Nadia, I don't know if this is.
Well, there's that. I mean, for instance, how are animals party to original sin be meritorious of any kind of suffering? And why is it that their state of nature such that when they get old or sick or anything, just slow down enough, they get torn apart, die in agony from predators eating them alive?
That's a good question, Nadia.
That's a tremendous amount of suffering. And it's not even just bad suffering. It's the order of, like, such as all heterotrophs, all life has to really
I think
kill,
that's a very
kill
good
and
question,
kill
Nadia.
and kill and the process of killing, torture.
Mm-hmm.
All other life.
Debate, Nadia. That's a good question.
All life has to kill and torture, or all animal life has to kill and torture all other life to.
I'm going to write that one down, Nadia. I like that question.
The order of the universe created in this way is, demonstrably horrific. How does the at all good deity, or remotely good deity even, consider doing anything like this at all?
That's the best question I've ever heard you ask, Nadia. I'm going to write that down next time I ask some Christians. That's a good question, Nadia.
Just animal suffering, probably.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Nadia. That's a very good question. How do they get involved in this mess? I think the question is that good. The room's gone silent, Nadia. I think you hit the fucking nail on the hammer there, darling.
I'm wondering if Roy's AFK.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're right. I got it right that time.
I think Roy tuned out pretty quick.
The last time I got it wrong.
Is Nadia done? Nadia, are you done? I'm just kidding. We got about a half an hour left, 35 minutes tops, guys, on this particular hangout. So just everybody be aware of it. I just figured it out. I used my math skills to figure out that it's going to end at
your math skills
Eastern time.
Should use them with the animals on the ark. You need a bit of math to work that one out.
Johnny, you're being mean now.
You got to be cruel to be kind, boy.
The Shadow said he was going to extend the broadcast. But...
Yeah.
I'm actually I am simulcasting, and I'll be taking over once it hits the 8 hours.
Okay.
Is there a theist in the house, Christian or otherwise? Because I don't know. Or is there even a deist in the house?
I'm a theist, so.
Balthazar is Christian.
Okay, there's a theist, a non-Christian theist, right, Ocean?
Yeah.
And Balthazar, and then there's Balthazar as well.
Oh yeah, there is Balthazar.
Yeah.
You got a person whose name is Christian. My name is Christian.
He's an
So, but
Yeah,
are you
well.
a Christian?
Well, it says it on my birth certificate, so I guess I am a Christian.
It does. But
He's a Christian atheist.
Yeah.
who's a Christian atheist?
Well,
it's actually a thing.
It is a thing. I learned from soccer that was a thing.
Yeah, the old classical meaning of the word Christian was merely follower of Christ. So if you're a follower of
Christian in the
Christ,
Bible
even
was
if you
not
don't
used.
buy into the other stuff, you're still technically, by definition, Christian.
Yeah.
Oh, people who follow me in Twitter and Facebook and G+ are Christians then.
No,
Because
Jesus.
it's follow me.
Follow Jesus. Not
No, Christ, not just some cat named Christian.
Oh, damn it. I don't want it to be a deity. What the hell?
Sorry, Kitty.
Just take your money to the church and you're in the club.
Seattle, that
Damn it.
sounds like beatnik talk. Some cat named Christian.
Yeah, man.
Are you
Hey,
guys
hey,
old enough to
I
experience
will
the
gladly, I will gladly
Yeah.
judge. I will gladly judge your god like a superhero in a comic book any day of the week. I have no problem doing that.
I can expand further on the problem of evil.
There is no problem with evil.
I just went on about animal suffering, didn't I?
Evil is not a problem. It's only a problem in thy mind.
in your
That's
brain.
it's what the line of argument's called.
The brain is not to be
Now,
trusted.
The question,
Don't
the way it goes is that
You know,
the,
the brain is not to be trusted.
I maintain
Trust
that a
your
holy
brain.
good God. I maintain that a holy good God could not could not create an order of the universe so horrific, so insidious that all animal life has to predate upon other life and torture and kill it in the process of doing so. That
I
essentially
agree
all,
with you,
all
Nadia.
especially so that all animal life, when it slows down or gets sick or whatever, is caught by predators and torn apart and dying in agony. So that is not the act of a holy good God.
He had a hissy fit, Nadia.
Well, you let him actually speak, please.
You still there, Roy, or did you walk away again?
I'm here.
Okay. That's the problem of evil, or the way the line of argument goes.
Yeah, I have a different perspective, Nadia. My perspective is, if you disobey, this will happen. And so they disobeyed, this happened, and we are now the consequence thereof. But God made a door for us to enter to escape this predicament. It's really that simple.
The question
Yeah,
is, what about the
are
animals?
party to itself.
All the animals disobey.
Animals-
The animals are not made in God's image. He's got them. He's got them all taken care of. Even if it doesn't say so in the Bible, I know all dogs go to heaven and border collies rule. All other breeds drool. That's all I know.
About that, right? Yeah, of course.
Well, then you're pretty much
I think you
conceded.
should use some tap dancing to boot scooting now.
No, it's not even a concession or whatever. Or trap dancing. Sorry. I mean, that's basically conceding the entire argument.
I'm making a prediction, and I don't know. I don't have no grounds for that. I know there's horses in heaven because we come back on horses, but I don't know about dogs. The Bible's silent, so therefore I'm silent. But this is wishful speculation on my part.
Years ago, not too far from where I live now, I was told this story about these two dueling churches that across the street from each other. One put up a sign saying all dogs go to heaven. The Baptist across the way put up a sign saying animals can't go to heaven, and put up a Bible verse. Across from that, the Methodist put up another sign, and this went back and forth apparently for months over the argument over whether animals go to heaven, all in the signs.
Hello?
So, and yeah, there's somebody has background noise or something.
It's John. He answered the phone and then left the room.
Hey, Roy, if I was going to be a theist, I would worship Satan because he only killed, like 10 people. God killed 2.5 million, so just saying.
Well, there's also Tenrikyo. I don't think Tenryo no Makoto kills anyone.
I'm not sure where that figure comes from.
In the Bible.
That's actually calculating out, estimating the sizes of varied tribes and making a wild guess at how much life there was before the flood, though, isn't it?
It's in the Bible.
Really? Where? What verse?
Just Google it. It's in there.
I got a funny feeling that God's dead, and it's also in the Bible. He got killed by iron chariots. It's a bit like Superman got killed by kryptonite.
Actually, I did make a video cracking jokes about the Iron Chariot things, because to me it was a Fae reference.
Yeah, I think that's what the Iron Chariots.
Oh, crap. Xbox, you still there, man?
You sleeping?
I'm simulcasting. If you want to cut it, you can at any moment.
People of ancient times.
Yeah, I have my thing going. Might have already gone back to bed. I just got a message from him a second ago.
Yeah, so, main thing is, people of ancient times had different even notion of religious experience. I mean, for instance, religious adherence wasn't merely a matter of, something about your personal life and such. Prior to the advent of the nation state, it was something akin to national loyalty, right? So when you declared, for instance, when you declared yourself of a religion or denied a religion or whatever, was, could be treasonous, in fact, too.
Nani, did your AC just kick on or something?
That's not mine. I am hearing noise, but I'm not.
Yeah, it's in between each.
I think someone's doing some vacuum cleaning.
Hang on one second.
Well, I wouldn't be hearing it myself if it weren't.
Yeah, that's normally the case. Oh, I think it was down vacuuming. Okay. Or something. Okay, sorry about that. It was hard to hear you with that going. I did up your volume just a tad, though.
Yeah,
and I think Roy might be AFK for the moment.
I'm here. Are you going to post a link to your room channel?
Oh, I can post it internal here, yeah. I'm not making a new room for it, but I did post it on the actual video as being where we're moving to next. But we're maintaining the same hangout anyway, because I can just broadcast from here. Technically, I already am. But the watch...
I see what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah, but I got the watch link.
I have one going.
Here's the watch link. I'm putting it in the chat.
Sitting out of it because it's like conspiracy.
Thanks, Ocean. But yeah, I already linked it externally. Because I has the power.
Mine's full of conspiracy nuts, and they're boring me to death, so I'm over here.
I don't blame you. I'm not. There are points at which I'm like, why is she still running it and letting them just do their weird shit?
I love your squirrels, Chad.
Oh,
the little squirrel theme is great.
I just enjoy this facepalm squirrel, frankly. I have Pointer Squirrel, which was from years and years ago. That was my old Please Subscribe squirrel. And the other ones I picked up somewhere down the road and said, yeah, we need the facepalm one right next to it.
Possum's a bit, though.
Yeah. I actually liked it. The one thing I like about this, here we go, hang on. I can turn on and off the live light and the title and all that fun stuff. It's kind of neat. Set the interface a little bit of a while ago.
Oh. One of the bits of logic about just letting them go is that they already pretty much scared everybody off to the point where, well, everybody collected here. And an empty room would scare people. An empty room would actually scare people away just as bad.
That's an odd thing.
Out.
Yeah, they're.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, I've gotten occasional messages of her room has been overtaken by whoever this on that occasion.
Yeah. So anyway, might as well let him run away than keep it rolling or something.
Yeah, one of these points, Roy, I'm going to have to get in a conversation with you about some of my disagreements with you, but I think we may have to hold that for an occasion when there's less chance of other people randomly coming in with silly stuff.
Yeah, and if you were here or listening or watching, you know, I've never engaged with Cy before. I've never even seen him before, but he did say at one point, and he verbalized it, that he had the advantage over me because, you know, I didn't know anything about him, and he said he'd probably already had at least 24 hours worth of, you know, hangout time outside watching, and I don't know if this is his first time in a hangout or whatever, but yeah, I really appreciated that because that was one of his big points, is that the dialogue that he and I were having wasn't as important as what other people may be seeing or hearing from both sides, either side, any side. And whether they were on the fence or not about this or that, you know, this type of dialogue will help them. I don't think it will hurt anybody, from my point of view. So I think he agreed with that. So yeah, and sometimes I don't get a chance to express some of the deeper things of what I believe, only because, you know, the conversation doesn't go there. And, you know, there's a lot of things, a lot of topics that we can talk about in the Bible. And for some reason, the same old ones seem to surface. And, you know, my least favorite out of all the 10,000 plus possible topics in the Bible is slavery. And I just told you about that earlier, and thanks for the video.
Yeah,
I will definitely catch that tomorrow.
Yeah, man. The thing is that what was driving me crazy for a while is that you had, this was around, I actually put that up around the time that, do you remember when Veckel and G-Men were going on and on defending slavery?
Goodness. Oh, duh, yeah.
Massive clusterfuck, that whole situation.
Oh.
And then, of course, you had the atheist sitting there saying, it says right here that X, Y, and Z, and nobody was bothering to see how it actually was regarded by the Jewish culture of the time. We have Jewish scholarship pertaining to 613 laws. Everyone was freaking wrong.
Well, you know Gav, don't you, Shadow? Gabrielle?
Yeah, and I actually had him watch that video, and he signed off on it. There was a debate that Veckel was in.
Right on.
And Veckel consults with Gav. Gav gives him all this information, and Veckel's like, great, 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 goes in and immediately apparently forgets everything Gav says.
Butchers it, yeah. Butchers it, yeah.
Then after the fact goes to Gav, how'd I do? And Gabrielle's like, I'm going to kill you now.
Face palm.
Don't ever fucking come to me again if you're going to ignore everything I say.
Well, you know what, Shadow, you know one of Gav's favorite lines is, stay the heck out of my book.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, that's the thing is with the Old Testament, who was Lewis Black, I think it was, that said it's their book. You know, if you want to know what's going on there, ask a Jew.
Exactly. Ask a Jew. Don't ask a Christian about stuff that has nothing to do with Christianity and has everything to do with Judaism. It's the Judeo-Christian, you know, book. I get it. But, yeah, that stuff is not for us. And it's if it was for us, it would be in the past, but not for us today. You know, I don't follow the
tap dancing.
You can just ignore it all because it's the Old Testament.
Actually, do you understand?
God, it was a different God, wasn't it, Roy?
Actually, hang on. For the two happy little trolls in the room, I have a question for you. In accordance to the New Testament, anyone who is not Jewish would be obviously referred to as a Gentile. Now, the new covenant that was established predominantly for the Gentiles. The Jews are still required, according to the New Testament, to still be under the 613 laws. Were the Gentiles?
Yeah, there's only Jew and Gentile. That's right.
The Gentiles were not required to follow the 613 laws, which would be the laws of the Old Testament.
Correct.
It's stated in the New Testament in the Pauline letters, I think 6 or 7 times. I'm not sure. I can only name a couple of the books off the top of my head. I believe.
And even if you are a Jew or were a Jew, if you just read the book of Romans, just one book out of the 66 books that are there, just read the book of Romans, and you'll see how you're not under, even as a Jew, which is now today a Christian, because there is no Jew, you know, there is no Gentile, we're just all Christians. And yeah, they'll tell you right there in the book of Romans that you're not under the law.
Yeah, there is a couple problems with the translation, though. For example, where it says that until all these laws pass away, or something along those lines, or until something passes away, all these. And what it's actually talking about is moving forward in time. It doesn't mean pass away in terms of dying. It just means that the laws will not be gone until, you know, Roy, what's the freaking line? I can't think of it.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to. Yeah.
It's like until all these things shall pass away, the law shall stand. It's some shit like that. I don't fucking remember. It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm almost wanting to say until the fulfillment of, you know, the fullness of the. In other words, until the last person is saved. Yeah, that's not going to be.
But no, it's actually talking about It's not talking about pass away. It's actually talking about moving forward in time. So
the fulfillment of that. Yeah.
It's actually, but it's not even talking about like the rapture. What it's talking about is as time goes on, the old laws will pass away. They'll be gone. They'll move as we move forward in time. those laws will slowly be phased out, essentially, is what it's really referring to in the Greek. I just can't remember the damn passage.
Your mom will be slowly phased out.
Oh. Well, actually, my mom already has been phased out, but that's okay. Matter of fact, she's been phased out to 6 whole feet. It's actually kind of a nice day, now that I think of it.
I'm getting phased out too.
I'll tell you.
Is,
tell you one thing though, Catholic wakes suck. Holy crap! I'm going to sit here next to a body for 4 fucking hours.
Well, the main thing
At least
is
there's ice in the room.
Well, the main thing is that I think there is some dependence on the Old Testament.
Gotta keep them
I mean, what prophecy did Christ fulfill? I mean, what does it even mean to be a Messiah without the Old Testament declaring
that's
Messiah to be such a great thing?
Yeah, that's kind of all they seem to use as a reference point. However, they don't go with the actual Judaic prophecies for the Messiah. Simon Bar Kokhba was the closest one to get to fulfilling that, but he didn't quite make it either.
But you more so.
Holy crap! I remembered the name. Sorry.
Where does the original sin come from, if not from literal Genesis?
Actually, I think the more Judaic read of that is that, granted, they don't believe in original sin per se in that same kind of way, is that that's more of a story of the falling away of innocence. That is the death of innocence in that case, that once you understand good and evil, then you can be judged by your actions, because if you don't understand it, you can't be judged. That's more the Judaic read of it, though. And I know Roy would not agree with the Judaic read on that.
No, but I do agree that that's the Judaic read.
And so
yeah, they don't believe in hell either. So yeah, at least not the way we believe in hell. So yeah, they don't see the judgment as the same as us.
Well, they don't really
they don't have the same God as us.
They don't really have an afterlife either.
Right.
Christianity is still inextricably bound with the Old Testament, though, in these ways, right?
Well,
and in fact, for instance, the laws of Leviticus are only selectively revoked or abrogated.
Well, here's
the covenant.
Actually, in terms of
various declarations of things being abominations,
actually,
are actually retained. They're actually retained.
In terms of the 613 laws, the old code, so to speak, as opposed to the new covenant. This is a point where I've had arguments with a number of Christians, and Roy may or may not be one of them. But there were a lot of areas in the Pauline letters where it's hard to tell whether he's speaking for God or based upon his own viewpoint. Now, he actually, if I remember correctly, he was a very learned Jewish scholar of the time, and I can't think of the word. I think it starts with a G or something like that. Basically, he was a big-time Jewish scholar prior to...
Yeah, he was one of the top big dogs. Yeah, if anybody were to have been saved by the law, it would have been him.
Or perhaps is he referencing the fact that in that culture they couldn't get married, therefore they'd be living in the sin of fornication, essentially, because they couldn't be married, so they couldn't have marital sex. They would have to be having premarital sex.
Well,
what do you think on that one, Roy?
Yeah, so so you have to understand Old and New Testament, because if you don't understand that part, it's like Jesus didn't come to give us.
Let's not get sidetracked. The notion is that at that point was Paul speaking directly for God, because a lot of keep in mind that a lot of people that are seminary students and what have you, I've talked to about a dozen of them, consider most of that particular part of Romans to be hyperbole to begin with. But with whether that you want to hold that in mind or reject that or what have you, that's entirely up to you. But nonetheless, the question is whether he's speaking for God when he was talking against homosexuals, or was he talking from the Judaic framework of him being raised with those 613 laws, or perhaps could it be because gays weren't allowed to be married, so would be living in sin unconditionally?
Yeah, no, I think I understand what you're saying. So in the book of Romans, he's not speaking on his own behalf. He's speaking on God's behalf. when he says, he'll tell you, I'm speaking for me. Like, for example, he says he wishes that you and I, Shadow, were not married. Well, not you maybe, but us who are Christians, we're not married, because then that way we can be full-time for the Lord, and the cares of this world and the cares for a wife and a family would not be there. But he says if you don't have that in you, if you're burning with desire to be married, then by all means go get married. So now he's speaking on his own behalf. But for the most part, since he wrote almost 2/3 of the New Covenant, then there's only like once or twice where he basically says, I speak for myself. Other than that, it is certainly implied that he's speaking on God's behalf.
I think a lot of those sections are, I don't think they're necessarily that clear. And these are things that many of the scholars have debated over the years as to, is he really speaking for God at this point? Is he claiming revelation, or is this his viewpoint? And in a lot of cases, it's considered by quite a large body of scholars that unfortunately might upon the Gospels came later.
The whole thing boils down to this for me, personally, is that I am not bound by any of Paul's rules, Paul's laws. I'm not even bound by any of God's laws, as far as, now listen very carefully before you misquote me, as to how I run my life and what I do on a day-to-day basis, moment-to-moment basis. For example, let's take the homosexual issue, okay? Now, is homosexuality a sin or not? Well, it depends. If God says it is, or Paul says it is, and it's just based on whatever, so all you as a human being have to do is to determine whether something is a sin or not, and if it is, there's consequences of the negative kind attached with it. If something isn't a sin, then it's a blessing. So there's going to be a consequence associated with it in the positive. So when I do my thing every single day, and I know better, hopefully I do better, but not all the time. So even though I know to do better, sometimes, I get a little heated when it comes to conversations with my wife because, well, that's just human nature. Now, I wish I was better. I want to do better, but I don't. So if I sin, then I'm not going to lose my salvation. Yes, I need to repent from that, because do better when you know better, and I do know better, and I lost my cool or this or that or what have you. So are there negative consequences associated with that? Absolutely there are. So if I can live with that, then I can keep doing that. But if I can't live with the negative consequences, then I need to stop doing that. So when you look at rules and regulations, when you look at do's and don'ts, you don't have to do any of it. Just do as you please. There's no rules. Paul says nothing I have to do or not do. It's all free for me to do. I am free in Christ. That is the revolutionary perspective when Jesus walked the planet. I mean, the Pharisees were absolutely up in arms when they were saying that. Dude, man, it's the Sabbath, dude. What are you doing? They were like, on the outward side, following the law to the T and bashing anybody who didn't keep the law on the outside. But on the inside, they were, as I said earlier, filthy, dirty cups of whatever, you know what I'm trying to say? So please understand that rules and regulations, whether Paul's or not Paul's, Christ's or not Christ's, whatever, it's not for you to sit there and do and don't do. You do what you want to do, suffer the consequences good, suffer the consequences bad, and soon enough, the more you learn about Christ, the more intimate a relationship you build with Christ, the more Christ-like you will become. I mean, if you've ever hung around people and you really love them,
wait a minute,
like
Roy.
them,
Roy.
thinking like them,
I've
being
had,
like them.
I've
That's
had
what you guys.
I've had plenty of conversations with and around you. I think Nate's rubbing off on you.
Oh no, I'm never as expressive as he is when it comes to stuff like this. I'm a little bit different, but we've always been on the same page. We've always said to one another, this do and don't do stuff. Why are people legalistic? Why are people so under the law? It's like, that's ridiculous. Just do whatever. And then it took a while for me to get Nate to say, okay, Roy, I'm going to let you be you. and I'll just have to live with that, because trying to mold you into Nate's image, as Nate was saying that to me, is not doing any good. You know, for those of you who don't know, he blocked me for like 3 days. Not because he didn't like me, not because of, you know, anything that, you know, personally we didn't like about each other. He just couldn't get a word in edgewise after I poked the stick into the monkey cage when all the monkeys came in, and then he couldn't get anywhere. And so he just wanted to give me a cooling off period and said, hey, I'm going to block you for 3 days. And, yeah, if you stop poking the stick at the monkeys when they come in, then, yeah, you can be in my room otherwise, because it's really hard for me to deal with them when they're all
long-winded.
When they're all worked up. Yeah, well, that's it.
I'm going to have to start making you truncate sometimes. So basically, you're not taking the hard line on the homosexuality thing at this point. Is that what I'm reading into this, or?
Yeah, so here's the thing about homosexuality. If you want to be homosexual, be it. I got no problem with that as a Christian. And if you want to do it in your own house, that's great. You want to be in my house, that's not so great. Okay.
You know, I'd swear about a year ago you had a very different view. I still think I still think he's been rubbing off on you. I don't know. Can't prove it though.
Not at all. I've never wanted anybody to be anything more than they want to be. Listen, my 2 cents about relationships have always been like this. I'm going to let you be you, you let me be me, and we'll have the best relationship possible. Whether you're homophobic or homosexual or you know, it doesn't matter what you believe. We can still be friends.
Okay, there we go. Person that can't seem to stay in the frickin' call's been removed.
Who removed him?
I did.
Who's that?
Oh, and Xbox, it looks like where'd he go? Guess he logged out.
Oh, you removed the wrong person, you dickhead.
What? Did I?
No, you didn't remove Xbox.
No,
he left group chat.
You removed the Xbox.
Nah, he left. We'll go offline in a moment, then it's my show.
The line guy. Okay.
Yep.
Roy, here's the thing, Roy. I don't give a flying hoot what you think is wrong or not wrong. Nobody cares, Roy. Take your silly little book and shove it, Roy. Because homosexuals have a right to be married, they have a right to live. Leave them alone, Roy.
Let me hold your feet to the fire down.
Xbox returns. And we have a few more minutes till we go off air.
I think we got 4 minutes.
Yeah. Roy, do you understand what I said, Roy?
And I'm going to post the join link under my end, because in a couple minutes it's going to be my show.
No, 6 minutes. We have until 48 after. Wait.
You want all the power and all the glory.
It should have already done it.
Roy, you want to put your paradigm on how you think people should act onto them, okay? That's what you really want.
Certainly when, all such, now, down, if I can hold your feet to the fire for a moment, what do you think you're trying to persuade someone of? You think you're going to persuade anyone God doesn't exist?
I'm not going to persuade him. I'm going to call him out on his hypocrisy as wanting to be a good Christian and turn the other cheek, but then state that, well, if they did that in my house, I don't know about that. Turn the other cheek, boy. Turn the other cheek.
So it's a form of corrective humiliation?
It's a form of calling out the hypocrisy. You know, on one end they say turn the other cheek, on the other end they want to regulate what everybody else does.
Well, granted, there are some bad consequences of position, but how do you approach it? And is the approach you're taking actually productive, and do you have mandate to actually be productive instead of
We have
merely
Nadia, if you were born 500 years ago, you would have been stoned to death.
Exactly, Nadia. You would have been stoned to death 500 years ago, and nobody was calling out the hypocrisy back then, Nadia. They were just accepting these.
I would have been beaten to death as a child, but.
Well, there you go, Nadia.
Actually, Nadia, I would say 100 years ago they would have beat you to death. Even 100 years ago they would have done that.
Yep, they would have burnt you at the stake. You're lucky you're in the 21st century, Nadia, where we can look after you.
Think I'm being looked after?
Well, we're trying our best.
I don't believe so. I don't believe.
Well, you're still alive.
I don't believe there's a sense of a mandate to,
Still with us.
care for people and
Still with
such.
us, Nadia. If they had it their way, they would have silenced you a long time ago.
Nadia, I told you earlier that brother, that Jimmy Hillbilly, and Mike Holiday, all these Christians were stating that basically you're an abomination. Okay, they want to apply their paradigm of what they think is right onto you.
I know. And how do I counter that?
Well, we're doing it for you, Nadia. I was in a hangout today with that Christian hillbilly, and I gave it to him, buddy. I gave it to that piece of shit.
You think screaming at them will persuade them of anything? You think screaming at them will in any way change their behavior, opinions, or anything?
Well, you're still alive, Nadia.
You think mocking them is quote-unquote corrective humiliation? You think
We've got to start somewhere.
you believe corrective humiliation has any persuasive power?
You take their power away from them, Nadia, by pointing out the hypocrisy and their own contradictions.
Mm-hmm.
You have a very skewed analysis of power. And what power do you think that divests from them?
Silence their bullshit.
You let them know that you let them know that they have no power over you. That's how you quash their power. It's that simple.
That's right. You let them know. That's why the internet's. This is where Christianity comes to die, Nadia.
I don't exist by some divine rule. I exist by a humanitarian rule. Okay, a humanistic rule. That's my existence.
You exist by the permission of others. The opinions of the hiring manager, the opinions of, well, if you're in the social assistant, you're a social worker, case manager, whoever. The opinions of, your enemy and such. You persuade the one, you're evil, and they go about persuading others likewise. You shoot yourself in the foot. You know, you go about all this corrective mockery of the Noachian flood or whatever, and you know, sure enough, you'll have 10 other Christians. Well, voting in that survey, it says you and all atheists are as horrific and moral monsters as any rapists.
How much progress have you made by being nice to the fundies, Nadia? How much progress? How many people have you convinced at all?
And Live Light is off inside the hangout.
Oh.
You want to have the
say
power
it's been a
now with all the fundies.
She's most likely not going to change any of their minds, but the people who are watching, those minds she can touch.
Well, actually, tell me, Roy. Am I a moral monster?
My show now, motherfucker. Those assholes are gone. Sorry. Okay. Woot!
Thanks, Shadow.
Oh, waiting for it to switch to my show so I could kick those fuckers the hell out.
I was waiting for that with bated breath.
Oh, sorry about that, guys.
Shadow,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, your finger must have been itching, brother.
Itching's not the word. Anyway. Holy crap. Okay, incidentally, on my G+, I have actually posted the link to join the Hangout. They're fucking gone, thankfully. I've been wanting to be able to have an actual dialogue for a while now. They kept getting in the fucking way. Okay, Nadia, Roy, have fun. You don't have to worry about those shitheads now. Because, holy crap.
Well, Roy, this won't take too long. Have you, over the past couple of years, been persuaded that I am not like many Christian sources say, as right there alongside, to be put alongside, pedophiles and those who engage in bestiality and rapists and so on.
Have I put you on that situation, or thought of you like that? I'm not following the question. If somebody, Charles, you get a lot of background noise going on, and I'm having trouble enough as it is listening to Nadia. But Shadow, if you're hearing what she's saying, can you ask me, because I don't want Nadia to repeat it and then we not be able to hear it again.
I was asking.
Oops, I was muted. Go ahead. Your volume's been increased slightly.
Many Christian sources will put those who are homosexual and transsexual on a par with, pedophiles and those who engage in bestiality and rape.
Oh, no, not at all. Nadia, no way. Charles, you've got... Okay. Never mind.
I just had to mute him for a second. He was the source of the background noise.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was saying if Charles could just mute out.
He jumped out, though. Go ahead.
Okay, no worries. No, Nadia, absolutely. Listen. Look, if somebody says, Roy, I sin differently than you do. Do you still love me? Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Roy, are you going to make a big deal about my sin? Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. I sin. Just because I sin differently than you do doesn't mean that I need to harp on how you sin differently than me and then you harp on how... No, that's not about harping on people's sin. We all do that. Listen, Jesus is all about one thing, love. You can love your enemy. I'm not saying people are my enemy unless they tell me they're my enemy. But love your enemy, because I don't have an enemy in the world. Even people who say, Roy, you're my enemy, I don't look at them as enemies. They're my friends, so to speak, or I'm at least friendly to them. So, Nadia, no way. I don't put you anywhere. I don't put you above me. I don't put you below me, and I certainly don't put you above or below other people who sin differently than you do. No, no, no. Not at all. I hope you knew that from the day that we started our conversation. Last year I asked you if you ever felt my love, and you said, well... yeah, but it's not real. It's kind of this or that, or forget exactly how you put it. But, if I could be offended, that would be an offense to me, because I've poured my heart to you as your friend. I never judged you. I don't need to judge you. Don't want to judge you. I talk to you like I do everybody, and I think that's very evident when people see, when you and I have interacted. So, no, I never would put you on the same plane as anybody else.
Well, doesn't.
I think the concern comes down to is that you're following a supposed divine entity that will judge her.
Yeah, whether he judges her or not, based on her own understanding of what he wants.
Actually, she went to counter what I just said. Sorry, go ahead, Nadia.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the forced immoral condemnation, right? You say, oh, well, sin, God's source of morality, therefore it's immoral. Now, these equivalences are often drawn, actually pretty explicitly, but also, as kind of general equivalence of all sin between, homosexuality, transsexuality, and pedophilia and bestiality. And you see all the resistance arguments, quote-unquote, against gay marriage. The slippery slope to marrying your dog and marrying young children.
I've heard that argument made by some Christians. I've actually heard it made by Roy, though. I did make a video a while ago kind of poking fun at it, because when you're going through the list of the 613 laws right after the man shall not lie with man is bestiality after that. So if you were prioritizing it by worst, then the absolute worst would be the one even after that, which is not to castrate any beast. Which makes the whole thing kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, so the direct question for Roy is, if I persuaded you that I have greater moral integrity than, well, pedophiles and rapists and those who engage in bestiality.
I don't know about greater, Nadia, but certainly different. I mean, I'm not here to judge whether somebody's morality is greater than someone else's, but I can tell you if it's different.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I mean, that may sound like a cop-out, but I assure you, you know what I'm saying? I'm just being very much me. This is who I am. I don't judge people. I don't need to. You know, and if people judge me, I get it. It's like they don't know what they don't know, and it's okay. I don't take it serious. If I took it serious, man, I'd literally be insane. Because how can I process all of that? It's like I know who I am. I'm confident in who I am. I'm very comfy in my own skin. If somebody laughs at me for believing, this or that about the Bible, it's like, yeah, I've heard it from the best and the worst here on Google Plus.
Yeah. And unfortunately, some of these
me.
arguments are just pathetic. God, sorry, those.
It doesn't faze me because I understand they need to vent, and if somebody lets them vent on them like I do, I mean, I heard about what was going on with Down before he even so much as uttered a word to me about this and that. I mean, I know when somebody's very antagonistic towards me and is just trolling me. He wants to eradicate the world of all churches and all people who go to church. I get that.
Well, the thing is, and I got to cut in for 1 second, because the thing is that gets me about that is that the reason why I got active at all in the community was to fight against dogma, to fight against dogmatism. And, a couple of atheists in there, and they're being, honestly, more dogmatic than you are. That's a friggin' problem. Because in some regards, you're fairly dogmatic at times, Roy, but holy crap, they put you to shame in the dogma department. That was ridiculous.
Isn't that, what is that? Is that an oxymoron? I don't know if that is, but it's certainly silly to listen to somebody and take their validity over. Yeah, I mean, well put, Shadow. I mean, I totally. It's to laugh. That's all I can say. It's to laugh. If they even understand what they're doing, it's to laugh.
Right. We've been talking since third quarter of 2012, maybe fourth. Is that right?
No, we've been talking since the end of 11. I got on here. Well, I don't know if I was talking to you directly at that time. You might remember better, but I've been on here since third quarter of 2011.
Well, not when you signed on G+, but when you talked to me on G+.
Yeah, so our interaction may be a little later. So if you remember it as third quarter a year later, like the end of 2012, then that sounds about right. I met Nate. Did you already know Nate when you met me, or did you not yet? Was Nate not yet known by you?
No, I didn't.
You met me first and then Nate, or the other way around?
You first.
Okay.
Same here, actually.
I met Nate in the summer of 2012. I met Nate in June, June 2012. So you had to have met me before then.
No, had to have been. That
was about
even after August.
That time period in 2012 was about when I met you.
Well, this is when I met Nate. So when I met Nate, I was already doing like religious hangouts with like Tim Brooks. He was the main guy. But as soon as Nate got around, so June 2012 is when Nate started his own, Ask a Christian room. So that's when I started hanging out with him, and we had more and more religious discussions along the lines with Nate. And he was pretty active during that time because his baby wasn't born yet.
How much do you think your views have actually shifted after encountering Nate? Honestly,
my views haven't shifted at all. What has shifted is the way I express them.
Okay.
And I still don't express them well enough in some areas. Like, for example, okay, so, I know this is a big point of contention for a lot of people. I don't know if it's for you guys or not, but, people who say, do you believe in evolution?
Oh.
It's like, well, you just told me that you believe in evolution just like I believe in creation, so therefore they're both faith-based, and if you don't like it, it doesn't matter. They're still both religions.
I'm not. You know that like half of everyone in the community is going to want to pounce on you on that one.
Well, see, this is what I have a problem with. So how can I say it without them pouncing on me and still have them understand what I just said? Because what I just said is true.
Accept evolution. It's
Everybody
science.
says believe.
You
Even
either
Dawkins says believe. He goes, people who his worst quote I ever seen is,
This is this
believe
whole
in
it's a
assumption
bad phrase. It's a bad phrasing, Roy, to say believe as opposed to accept. That's why most people are shifting to accept, because otherwise, because when they're saying they're basically saying do you acknowledge it? It's a similar word, but calling it a belief is kind of it's a toxic term in terms of the atheist side of the discussion.
It equivocates over there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a toxic term because when you're talking about belief in terms of belief in a divinity versus, belief that your wife is faithful or something like that, you're really talking about a different level of belief, aren't you?
See, this is what I want to answer that, but I can't answer that because, see, here's what I know.
Do you understand what I mean by that? I mean, one of them is...
Well, I know where you're coming from. I don't agree with it, but I do know where you're coming from with that statement. Okay?
It's kind of along the lines of there's more than one meaning to the word love, for example.
Well, exactly. I totally get you on that, but since we don't, we have to define it for people just like we have to define love. It's like my love for my wife and my love for ice cream are not the same, and some people don't know that there's a difference, and I don't know when I'm speaking to those people.
Yeah, and your belief in your wife and your belief in your God would be two different things as well, wouldn't they, ultimately?
Well, okay. So, yeah, again, I want to answer your question, but I can't. So let me explain it like this. So, Shadow, this is just me and you, not 89.3% of all Christians or 53.25% of all atheists. Who cares? I don't care what the percentage is, okay? Everybody's going to read their Bible the way they read their Bible. Now, when I read my Bible, yes, I've personalized it. This is God's love letter to me. That's how I read it. When you read your Bible, or when you read the Bible, depending upon how you say it, how you phrase it, how you put it, you read it with a bias and a presupposition. So do I. All people do. Now, once we get past the basics of that, there are two differing points of view. One says, in the beginning, God, and the other says, in the beginning, not God. Now, how sure we are, how certain we are, how absolutely truthful it is on what we believe, whether God or not God, will depend on what we mean when we say believe, right? I believe God exists, but yet at the same time, I would equate that to I know God exists. So when I say I believe, then I also mean I know. Now, if an atheist says, I believe that God does not exist, I don't know if they're saying, I know that God does not exist, and use the word believe and know interchangeably.
But would you say the same thing in terms of? But would you say the same things in terms of when somebody says that they believe in evolution? Do you hold that same metric of they know evolution?
I would rather them say that, because I don't say I believe in God. I say I know God exists. Okay. So if they say, Roy, do you know evolution is true?
This is why I say that.
Now I would know exactly what they mean, and I can answer them.
And now we're homing in on the point that I was kind of alluding to, is that this is why a lot of atheists, well, when they're thinking about it, instead of just using center colloquial terms, will say things like, do you accept evolution? As opposed to believe in, because that believe in has all kinds of connotations that they're not really intending.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody say that to me before.
No, I usually use it that
way. So
way.
if they do, then
I just
we
avoid
can
the
get into
topic
that
because
discussion.
I just tend to avoid that topic because it just ends up spiraling out of control into this clusterfuck of argumentation.
Absolutely, and so half the time I have no idea what they're even talking about when they say evolution. Because evolution, the way I understand it, is the way they mean it, is impossible. Because evolution cannot tell you the origin of Adam and Eve. They cannot.
Well, it won't.
Hang on.
We've gone down this rabbit trail before. the atheist doesn't believe in Adam and Eve, so of course evolution wouldn't tell you about Adam and Eve. It would tell you about the shift of a population until they started being something resembling what we'd call human. There wouldn't be just two people in a garden, so you're never going to meet people eye to eye on that one, because they'll be saying, well,
That's
no,
my point.
there wasn't an Adam and Eve according to evolution, and that's
So
so there's always
right.
going to be a disconnect there for you.
Exactly. So that's my point. So I say to them, look, I can't accept evolution. I can't believe evolution. I can't know evolution. All I can do with it is reject it because it's against what is true. And if something is not true, then it's counterfeit. So evolution, in my humble knowledge, not opinion, knowledge of the Bible, is that it is not possible, therefore it is counterfeit, therefore it is not true. Now, it doesn't matter if someone believes the Bible or not. My point is,
and nor does it
if
matter.
you read the Bible, whether
But hang
you
on,
believe
hang
it or
on one
not,
second.
it
Hang on
doesn't
one
matter.
second. The thing is, on some we do see varied forms of evolution. For example, nylonase, a bacteria that evolved so that it could eat nylon in the area. Would you propose that God just changed that particular bacterium so that it could eat nylon, or is there a certain level on which you are comfortable accepting the notion of evolution?
Yeah, if you define it for me as something other than giving me a reason for the origin of Adam and Eve,
okay,
and all of mankind, then I'm willing to go down that road.
Okay, so
absolutely.
if
And
we basically exempted mankind from evolution, it wouldn't be too hard a pill per se.
that depends on what I need to look at. I'm very unlearned. Shadow, I'll be the first one to
That's
tell
okay,
you.
that's
When
okay.
it comes to evolution, I don't want to know. I don't need to know. But if someone wants to engage me in conversation like you are, like a friend, and says, "Hey, Roy, all right, here's what evolution says. Evolution says blah 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 blah." I will absolutely attempt to wrap my mind around it. But if you tell me to go watch this 8-hour video,
No,
let's-
I don't even want to get into it too deeply. I'm just trying to understand your mind on this, because your
Correct.
disconnect is at Adam and Eve. So if somebody was stipulating that we're taking man off the table, man is completely exempt, sure, fine, you're Adam and Eve were created, yada, yada, yada. But as for animals being able to evolve and this and that, non-human things, from the point of creation onward, that you wouldn't necessarily have a problem with.
So if you're telling me that that all cows, all dogs, all everything as life form as we know it today didn't appear on planet Earth as their current form, and they evolved out of something different, now I got a problem with that.
Well, the thing is, at that point, if you were to take it from a theological basis, what you'd be saying is that this is the process that God used to form the animals, instead of just, out of a puff of smoke. There was a process that went into sitting there and shaping them and crafting them.
Okay, so you understand what a kind is as opposed to a species.
Kind really is, nobody understands what kind is. That's part of the problem.
That's exactly the problem. So if you don't understand what a kind is, then I have no dog in this fight at all.
Okay,
but if
cool.
you want to go down the road with kinds, then at least we're talking the same language and we're not disconnected. If we're disconnected, we're talking past each other.
Well, let's try and connect on this a little bit, and I just want to play with this for a moment. Now, what was what was man initially formed out of in the Bible?
Okay, so you're needing to help me. You need to lead me a little bit more.
Okay. Now, Adam was created out of, what was it, the dust of the earth, basically, right?
Okay, well, not. Okay, here's how
I'm trying to remember. I can't look it up
right.
off my screen
So,
the way it
so
is.
I wouldn't say it that way. Here's what I would say. So God said, "Let us create man in our image." Now, he never said that before about anything he's created.
No. I'm with you on that. But what I'm saying is, it does have in there that God took materials and made man out of these varied materials, right? So there's a process that went into that.
No, he didn't make man. No, he didn't make man. He made the body out of the dirt. Okay.
Yes, and that's what I was going to.
What he did. He said he will make man in their image. So their image is spirit. So man is spirit. So he made Adam spirit.
Okay,
then he gave him a body.
All that I'm addressing here in terms of evolution does not address the spirit. It only addresses the physical. It only addresses the body, not the spirit, not the soul, none of that. It's just talking about the physical forms.
Right, but you need to know how man was formed so that you'll understand how evolution has or does not have a connection to the truth. So first, Adam is a spirit. So then God gives him an earth suit and makes it from the ground, and then he breathes into his nostrils and makes him a living soul.
Now, in terms of building that earth suit, though, in terms of building that earth suit, there's a process there, right? God sat there and he took, what he took and put it, boom, there we go, made the earth suit. And all that this would be essentially stipulating is that there was a similar process put into the animals being formed out of something. It doesn't say how he made the animals, just that they were made, correct?
Oh, it does. It does. It does. It also says how he made the animals. It does.
Oh, I think I missed that part.
You want to screen share? Let's see. Go back to Genesis. No.
With my current rig with broadcasting, I can't load other pages.
All right, let me see if I can, bro. Let me. Hold on. I'm laying down, so let me get over here. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. No, I just don't remember there being any part where it said what process he used to make the animals, just that he created them.
All right. Keep talking and let me.
Now, mind you, I'm referencing Genesis 1. I don't know if after Genesis 1 if it gets into more specifics with that.
All right, no worries, no worries. I'm going to go on mute for a second. I'm going to find this and screen share so that we can be on the same page. Shadow, guys, gals. See, I love this. I love this. Now, one of the things I say, I don't know if you guys have heard me say it before. I don't say it enough, but lately I've been having to say it because the show that Nate and I are doing, we don't do Bible studies in there with atheists. We don't do Bible studies with I don't do Bible studies with non-believers. And the reason I don't is because it never turns out good unless I know it's going to turn out good. But if I'm going to have a Bible study, then I'm going to know for sure that the other person is willing to have a Bible study. So right now, I know you're not a believer like me. So, but I still study the Bible with you simply because I know that we're going to get something good out of this. Because you said, let's see if we can connect this.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is, I want to see if I can get potentially past some of the disconnect. In terms of,
that's exactly what I'm hearing you say.
And if we can't, we can't. But if we can, because there have been varied views that I've tried, promoting. Like, for example, it doesn't say how specifically God did the creation thing. I'll also sometimes note that this person this was revealed to, told the story to people, passed down, etc. But if God tried to give all the specifics of the hows in terms of this, they wouldn't have known it. Heck, even today, the hows of how these things were created, a lot of it we still wouldn't understand, even with our scientific advancement. So, bump, there we go. Somebody gets this vision, etc., of how this all went together. How reliable are they going to be able to fully understand it and pass it on is, I think, questionable. Because, well, God might be omniscient and have perfect understanding of this and that. That doesn't mean the person that relayed the story would. So that's, I think something that should be considered at times as well, because whether it's divinely inspired, etc., 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 that doesn't mean that the people writing it down could write it down with the knowledge of God, so to speak, if you get what I mean. Not meaning the knowledge that they had of God, but God's actual knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it could be possible that this person was showed evolution when the animals were being created and didn't understand necessarily what he was being shown.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And perhaps I'm playing a little Hasatan with you now, but so be it. I do that.
No worries. Let me see what I can come up with here. Hold on. Let me go here. I want to be able to see this. See, there's a lot of subtleties that a lot of us look. I believe that if you go looking for something, you will find it. So if you go looking for nothing, you're going to find it. If you go looking for something, you're going to find it, and everything in between. And you're going to stop looking when you find it, right? So like the old adage, well, why do people always stop looking the minute that they find something? It's always I said that wrong. Why is it that when people go looking for something, it's always in the last place they look? Well, because once they find it, that they stop looking, so it's always going to be in the last place they look. It's like that. And so if an atheist goes reading the Bible, then they are going to look for and find this or that, unless you're doing what you're doing, Shadow, which I love this, because maybe you didn't see this, maybe nobody's pointed this out to you, and if I'm the first or not the last, then so be it.
And on this one, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, either of us could be wrong, and I'm curious. Because I certainly don't remember that. It's been a while since I bothered to actually properly read through Genesis, but I don't remember there being a how he made the animals in there. Just that he did.
Right. Hold on a second.
Now, I like to practice what I refer to as instead of calling it counter-apologetics, I call it pseudo-apologetics, which is trying to offer, so to speak, apologetics that are compromises between the two sides to see if you can get people to come together on certain notions. Because otherwise you're just fighting.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Absolutely.
Like my whole thing with promoting the notion that perhaps the reason why the prohibition against homosexuality in the New Testament is because they couldn't get married. And with the culture back then, that could be the case. Now, there's also the fact that in Roman culture, there was a tendency amongst grown-ass men to take on young boys as lovers, and they could have been speaking out against that too. I mean, there are certain questions that could be asked about that, especially because in with the text, especially going by the Greek, a lot of what it's talking about is prostitution that was going on at the temple at the time.
Okay, so I think this might be big enough to show. Let me see if I can show my screen.
And I will see if I can.
Psittacoitis is Romanos in the. Sorry, Psittacoitis is Erastes, and the Malakos is Romanos is actually rather plausible.
Gather together into one place and let the dry land appear no song.
Can you guys see my screen?
Let the earth bring forth the grass, herbs, seeds, fruit trees, after his kind, who seasons himself on the earth. Well, so we got the trees. Where is the
okay? So what I've highlighted here are verses 9 through 11. So 9 just basically says that the waters under the heaven be gathered together, right? Blah 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 blah. So verse 10, and God called the dry land earth.
Yeah.
And then the next verse, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass and herb and fruit trees and blah 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 and this and that. So
well, where's the animals though? Where's the animals though? That's that's
okay. That's okay.
The plants came forward from non-living matter. It wasn't alive. God crafted it out of the earth, then it was alive.
I'm not very scientific. I don't understand that. So all I understand is if I plant some tomatoes, then the earth will sprout it forth. Yes.
Oh, I agree with that. But at the same point, there's no reference to seeds. He made them. He made grown plants come up. He didn't necessarily grow them from seeds because there's no reference to that.
He did not put seeds in the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Good point. Exactly. So he made the plants mature. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. And the evening was the fourth day. Then God said, verse 20, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life. Now, what brought forth the creatures in the sea? The waters.
Okay. So they were made out of non-living matter within the waters then, because it was the waters that brought them forth. Okay.
See, the water is what brought forth the moving creatures
that
now have life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven.
Now, for the moment, I will leave out the fact that that's the wrong order for birds, but okay.
Again?
That's the wrong order for birds, from what we know, but we'll leave that be for now.
No. Let's touch on that. What do you mean it's the wrong order?
Birds actually were fairly late arrivals. You had fish, then you had the things on land. The birds actually came a bit later. But as I said, in terms of the narrative here, and what we know of science, it could be easily that these things were shown to the person and they could have potentially remembered some things out of order. That wouldn't be anything that'd be theologically significant, though.
Okay, so then, see, so what you just said wasn't really that important. It's super important to me because, look.
Oh, okay.
From my point of view.
Excuse me if I get robotic, I'm getting my coffee.
Yeah. Did you say you could hear or not?
I can hear fine. It's just my voice will sound a little funky out here.
Oh. Because I was going to grab some tea. I'm going to pause and grab some tea myself. So why don't we both pause and go get our coffee and tea and let somebody else talk real quick. Who else is wanting to comment on this real quick? I'm going to go get some tea. And I can hear you, but I can't talk back.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on wireless. Whenever I go into the kitchen, it gets a little funky.
Yeah, I have an intercom, but I don't want to be able to set it up so I can speak. I can just hear.
Yeah, but of the things that a lot of atheists will reference in terms of things that are wrong in the Bible, we'll just say, one of the things they tend to cite is that they have the birds created in the wrong order based upon everything we know about the evolutionary process. Things like birds, and actually flight itself was relatively late on the scene. And as such, they will try to make that out to be a big deal. I don't think it necessarily is, because my thought, if you were to take this as being somebody giving an actual account of what God tried to impart in them, I don't think that person's memory would necessarily be perfect. And we're talking about stories that were passed down by word of mouth for an extended period of time. So it could be these storytellers that were narrating it prior to it being written down that could have actually mixed things around and what have you as well. So if you were to take this as a straight story, I think either one of those are relatively easy ways out of that. And the order in which the birds were created, I don't find to be theologically significant. I just really don't. It seems like such a minor pet peeve, picky point. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad argument to use. I don't find it overly compelling when I try to look at things from the alternate perspective. I think that's something that could be easily rationalized away.
So your stuff was so good I didn't go yet because I wanted to respond before the thought got away from me. So for me personally, it's important to know that if God said A and man says B, and man's rendition is contrary or different than God's, then I'm going to throw out man and I'm going to believe God. You get that, right? That's
I've heard you say that many times before, but here's the thing.
So then you see how evolution cannot fit with
hang
my
on though,
worldview.
hang on though, Roy.
Yeah, I'm listening now. Now I'm going to go get my tea, so I won't be able to respond. You have all the time.
The thing is, what you have to keep in mind is that ultimately, in the end, it was people writing this down. Now, if you were to basically say if you're going to go with man or God, well, this was technically written by a man. Now, whether he was inspired by God, etc., it wasn't God himself that wrote it. And does God, a divine entity, creator of everything, sound like the type that would sit there and look over somebody's shoulder and say, okay, you missed it, you screwed up this one line. It's not really important, but I want you to fix it anyway? I mean, that seems kind of silly. I mean, if it was something theologically significant or what have you, sure, we can go with that for the sake of the scenario. But if something that's not overly significant, doesn't matter. Heck, it'll be thousands of years before anyone knows any better. Don't worry about it. Now, if it was something major and something important, sure, fine, but this would be minor, not so important. So, that's part of why I don't see that as being a big deal.
I think I'm getting to the point where I better lay down before I fall down.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I'll open up the slot for whoever's
Thanks,
have
Nadia.
the sleeping cam on my own hangout. All right.
And hey, it was good talking to you. Anyway, Once again, on my Google Plus, I have actually posted the link. If anyone wants to come in and join us, they're welcome to. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep bugging Roy.
Yeah, no, if anybody else wants to jump in here, because, yeah, if this is getting too boring for peeps. I mean, I love this stuff, especially when we're talking at it from, I'm disconnected here, and I want to be connected there.
Yeah, do you see what I mean, though? And incidentally, unfortunately, the people on the feed can't actually see the screen share. This is turning into the, like, Heathen Roy show here. Or Roy and Heathen show. I don't want to say Heathen Roy. That sounds wrong. That is not how I meant that.
Oh, that's funny.
I think I inadvertently called you heathen. Didn't mean that. But hey, you'd be in good company.
I've been called worse, believe me. You know that. You were there.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but you really need to read into it and not, you know, see, when I read words, yes, I understand that there are 66 books that a lot of us look at as a single book and one book, and we forget they were 40 different authors at about a 1500, 1600 period time span.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's also stuff that is problematic in relation to some of the translations too. Some of these things could be a matter of translations, because a lot of, it's not like, you know, God, as I said, it's not like God was looking over the shoulder saying, Acts 22 there, you guys working on the King James, the kicking at the prick thing, that doesn't belong. Get that out of there. And if you go back to the Codex Sinaiticus, you'll find it doesn't actually belong there. They put it in the wrong place. It's not, yeah, that one was a mistake on the part of the scribes. But theologically not significant.
So two things here. So okay, we got the plants coming from the earth. Mm-hmm. We got creatures coming from the water. They be the water animals or mammals or fish, whatever, mm-hmm. and birds. Mm-hmm. And so winged fowl. Okay. Verse 21. Well, actually, verse 20. See, okay, so then verse 19, and that was the fourth day. Mm-hmm. Okay. So here's the fifth day, verse 20. This thing keeps getting in the way. Like,
yeah, I know it's a pain.
Yeah. So, and 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that it has, the fowl, that it may fly above the earth and the open firmament in heaven. And God created great whales and every living creature that moves, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind. Okay, so there's the first mention of the word kind, after their kind. Now, some people don't acknowledge the word kind, or they equate it to species or whatever. It's like, well, it's very simple to me to understand.
Let's not get into the kind thing too much, because that's a hornet's nest.
Okay, but that's where we're disconnected, I think. So tell me if we are, because so for me it's real simple to understand this, even though I don't have any kind of, you know, scientific, biological, or any of that type of, you know, I just it's real simple. So if there's mankind and there's animal kind, then that's really simple for me. It's like after their kind. If you're not an animal, then you're a human. There's humankind, there's mankind, and there's animal kind. Okay, so there's a difference. And then there's plant kind. So plants, animals, and humans, the three different kinds. Are we on the same page or no? Do you think that all of them are one kind?
The trick is, and this is where part of that disconnect is that when you're talking to somebody that has looked more into the science and this and that, what you've just described would be, in there would be the kingdom, the very top of it, that you have, you know, your bacteria kind and your animal kind, which we classify humans under, and plant kind, etc. This whole kind of, you know, that's so high up there that it's like, okay, that tells us nothing about what it means by producing after its kind. And if you're defining it that broadly, then evolution within any of those kinds would be really easy to deal with in terms of theology.
Okay, so then it says after their kind, right? Winged fowl after his kind. So he's making reference that even the so what would be winged fowl in your mind?
There's a whole bunch of birds.
I agree, and they would be after their kind, his kind, and God saw that this was good. Okay, he said, "Go, be fruitful, multiply, fill the waters, fill the seas, let all the fowl multiply in the earth." And that was the fifth day. Now, here comes the sixth day, and God said, "Let the earth," again, what's bringing this forth? The earth is bringing forth. Go ahead.
Okay, so once again, you have something living being brought forth from non-living matter.
Okay, so
now part of why I'm going down this route. Part of why I'm going down this route.
When you say the earth is non-living matter, I don't understand. Can you explain it to me in Roy terms?
The earth itself, the ground, the dirt. The earth itself is not a living organism. And part of why I'm taking this.
So what? I understand that, but what are you trying to say by saying that? In other words, one of
the big arguments that's made by people is that you can't get life from non-life, and according to Genesis, God did.
So you're trying to read into how God created cows in this scenario?
In essence, yes.
Okay, so I'm not. Because it's not clear how God made a cow. I don't know how God
exactly,
made a cow.
but that's just it.
Tell me how
wait, bro. But that's the point.
All he told me was that he brought it forth from the earth. That's as much as I need to know.
That's ultimately my point, though, is that it doesn't give you the process. That process could be abiogenesis. It could be evolution. It doesn't say.
Okay, it doesn't matter if it doesn't say. It didn't take 1,000,000 years for it to happen. It only took one day.
And we could continue to argue over. We could continue to argue over that because the days, as listed here, can't be based upon sunrise and sunset because when was the sun made?
Okay.
So it can't be based upon our sunrise and sunset because that was made what, after the plants, was it?
It was the fourth day. The third day.
Yeah, the fourth day. So
the stars in heaven were made after the plants.
Now this is where a lot of people have the question of, what is a day in the eyes of God, because looking at this and seeing when the sun was made, these days as they're presented in there can't actually be days in terms of the rising and falling of the sun before there was a sun.
Okay, but it doesn't matter, right? To me, it doesn't matter because you understand that I'm a Christian, so I see the as a Christian 24 hours. So because they have to be 24-hour days, they can't be millions of years.
Wait, no. They don't have to be human days. They don't have to be days from the eyes of man. They can be days in the eyes of God, because with the sun being created fairly late, so to speak, the fourth day. Well, then what are they talking about in terms of day? Now, there are some ways, based upon the way Judaism works, that could be referring to an era. There is some question in there. And part of why I'm actually hitting you with this particular approach, this isn't an atheistic approach. There is actually a Christian author that put out a book a while ago that went through a Genesis account and essentially used that to square it with science. And, well, there are some areas where I'd certainly disagree with them. They did a fairly thorough job in their attempt to do so. And they were able to square these notions with, things like pointing out, for example, that light was created long before the days. Now, they also speculated that light was God himself that was generating the light prior to that. But they were also stated in there that since the sun wasn't created till the fourth day, this obviously had to be a day in the eyes of the Lord, or perceived as a day based upon the person that was having this revealed to them, things along those lines. But this was actually a Christian book, written by a Christian to try and square science with religion. And they did a very thorough job with it. If I can find out, I'll have to ask Jade. She probably freaking knows. But
yeah, you know, I would love to get more versed in this and speak more accurately. So you're just going to have to take me in my raw state right now.
Now,
so when I read chapter or verses 3 through 5, I read that and God called the light day, and the darkness He called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for me, these can't be periods of time, long periods of time. I know some people have thrown in the gap theory and all of that stuff, and it's like, look, this is the first part of our Bible.
Also, hang on though. It also says that He hung 2 lights in the sky, the sun and the moon, doesn't it? And we know that the moon, strictly speaking, isn't a light, so there has to be a perceiver element in this. Doesn't it?
Okay, so I know you're referring to the stars in the heaven on day, what is it? Day 4.
But when
okay,
the sun,
so here, I just want to tell you where we're disconnected. So when I read verse 5, and God called the day, excuse me,
the light day and the darkness He called night.
Day, and the darkness He called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Okay, so I'm looking at that as a day, and a day in every facet of the world is 24 hours. Okay, so it's not 1,000 years, it's not 1,000,000 years, it's not 1,000,000,000 years. Now we get over here.
But you're interpreting this in very human terms, and sometimes you have to. Let's just go to the 4th day.
Yeah, see, listen to what you just said. So any other book we pick up, we're going like, should we do this in human terms or should we do this in God terms? We don't do that. We just read it for what is there. And when it is said to us that this is an allegory, this is a simile, this is a parable, then it's real simple. But if it's not, then it's literally a day.
Well, the thing is, even then, once again, you have it actually is somewhere else in the text. It does reference a day in the eyes of the Lord, does it not? Much
not
later
in
in the
this
text.
Not in this book. In another book.
Yeah, much later in the text.
Another book, it says a day is like 1,000 years to the Lord, and 1,000 years is like a day to the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So if we apply that here, then it can't apply because you can't have vegetation staying alive for 1,000 years. You need the sun. So the reason God told us that
no. If the light of the Lord Himself was shining on them, if they had light without requiring the sun at that point, before He had coalesced the light into the sun, etc., 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 then you have a different matter there.
Wow. No scientist will tell you that that's true.
I don't give a shit what the scientists say right now. We're talking theologically here.
That's not true. That's of course that's possible, and I grant you that because God is sovereign. He can do anything He wants, except He didn't do it that way. Here's how He did it. He told us that the vegetation is dependent upon the sun, and just so that when we got into the evolutionary thing, some of us who read Genesis actually read it and know God's Word, we would say, this does not compute. You can't have diametrically opposed views and say that the Bible is still correct and have the other thing also be correct. So those of you, not you, those of you
if you're
who believe,
introducing however, if you're introducing the notion that God showed this to somebody. God, there we go. This guy sees it. He says this is great. Goes out and tells everyone. The story's passed down. Eventually, it's actually recorded. Then from that framework, it's not a big issue.
But it is a big issue to me because you can't have evolution saying something different than what God has already said and have it be true. One of them is false.
That's kind of the key there. Okay, let's just say that God decides that he's going to come down and he's going to try and communicate. He's going to explain quantum physics to you. Okay. He's just going to explain it. How much of that are you going to understand?
Everything, if he explains it to me in the way I can understand it, everything.
Do you think your mind could really understand God's perfect knowledge of anything?
Well, that's why his ways are higher than our ways. So anything that he's given to me personally and you personally to understand, we can understand it.
Okay. You can understand it as well as you're capable of. You're still limited to the fact that you're an imperfect being, correct?
Okay. That really doesn't even make any sense. So here's what you said.
If a perfect message was
and I said yes.
If a perfect message is conveyed from a perfect being to an imperfect being, will the message still be perfect?
Okay. I can't answer your question the way you phrased it. Let me rephrase it for you and see if you agree. God is not going to give anybody that is a human being exact knowledge as himself, complete knowledge as himself. In other words, he doesn't want to create.
We agree completely, okay. And that's kind of what I'm getting towards here.
Mankind a limited amount of understanding. This is
now if he's given mankind a limited amount of understanding, and from that limited amount of understanding, they must try to convey what God has given onto them. They're only going to be able to convey that limited understanding, correct?
No. Already disconnected. No. Okay, what you just said, if God gave us a limited amount of information and we attempt to go beyond the information that he's given us, or try to circumvent the information that he's given us, or want to contradict the information that he's given us, now we're in areas, in territory that he doesn't want us in, because that's not the domain he gave us to play in. You remember me talking about
that? But in terms of creation himself, wouldn't he have to give us limited understanding as well?
See, he only is going to give us understanding to where he needs us to go. If we go beyond that and start making up fairy tales and philosophies that don't
I'm not going there. I'm not going that. I'm not going there with that. What I'm saying is that the person that he first gave this to, he would have given a limited understanding, correct?
That he first gave it to? What do you mean by that?
This book, Genesis, wasn't just magically. It didn't magically appear. God didn't say, here's my book. Do you want my autograph? He didn't do that. We both know that, right?
Yeah, Moses wrote this.
Okay. So, well, yeah, and I'm not going to counter you on that with multi-author hypothesis right now, but regardless of that, God, I really want to go down that rabbit hole. Nope, won't do it. Don't do it. Not now. Okay, so he's given to this messenger, this prophet, giving to Moses, we'll say, what Moses can understand of it, right?
No. It doesn't matter if Moses understood any of it. No. This wasn't for Moses to understand. This was for mankind to be given.
But if Moses is going to spread... If Moses is going to spread this to others, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to completely cut you off. I just want to. If Moses is going to try and explain this to other people, he has to understand it in such a way that he can convey the knowledge, correct?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, absolutely not. See, that's the disconnect between how if you interpret it like that, then you're interpreting it incorrectly. See, God knew that you and I would be reading this. We have no problem reading this if we don't add more to what it is and subtract from what it is. It's real simple. This is the problem I think that most people have when they approach the Bible. Because if you don't start with, in the beginning God, then you're going to read, in the beginning not God. And then you have that bias and you have that presupposition when you read these words. And then you go, well, it wasn't really a 24-hour period of time. It had to be millions of years because, the scientific evidence shows that this can't possibly be true.
Actually, I'm trying to approach this with if God.
Yeah, but this is since God. Since God created the world, and He's the creator, we now know how He did it. Now, this doesn't say the scientific method was this. He just gives us a basic understanding. Now, if mankind wants to dig deeper, He allows that. because he gives certain human beings the secret things that belong to him, to them, because he created them with this innate understanding to understand this particular thing, and that's why we have scientists, and that's why we have doctors, and that's why we have people who are not like everybody else and could care less about this stuff. You understand what I'm saying?
But hang on a second. Wouldn't that mean that he imparted the knowledge of evolution into these scientists, though?
He imparts truth into people, but when it counters the Bible, it's not from him.
Well, how can you necessarily know? I mean, the thing is...
all you have to do is read it, and then this is genuine.
No, hang on.
Hang on.
Let me try to bring this to fruition for a moment. Now, if, he's sitting there, he's communicating with Moses. Moses, a more primitive time, less known of the world, he imparted in such a way that Moses would understand it, and the people would understand it. Now that we are more technologically advanced, and we have a lot more knowledge of the world around us, now maybe we're ready for more of that. And I'll illustrate this by referencing how I raised my daughter. When my daughter was quite young, her and I sometimes would have fun. We'd go out and we'd see the moon up there and we'd go, "Arr!" and do this little howling at the moon thing for fun and this and that. One night we went out and there was no moon, and she was horrified because there was no moon. And she said, Daddy, where's the moon? And I said, don't worry about it. It's behind the clouds. The clouds are cleaning it. It'll be all bright and shiny tomorrow. Next day we go out, the moon's out, and she's like, oh, wow, it really is shiny. Ooh. Because that, at the time, is what she'd understand. If I started talking to her about how the moon goes around the Earth and the orbit and this and that, she would not have had any clue what I was talking about. So, as she got older and more mature and could understand more, I gave her more accurate understandings, because she was ready for that understanding. Now, what I'm positing is that we, as a people, as the human race, so to speak, back in the days of Moses, we weren't ready for the knowledge of some of the how things were done.
No, see, I disagree with that. Let's take, for example, Abraham. So Abraham was told, you got to cut the foreskin on the 8th day of your sons. And for a long time, people didn't know why, simply because God didn't tell them why.
Wow.
Now medical science, and this is just recently, I think, I'm not sure, but recently medical science now knows, oh, we get it. On the 8th day, that's the best time to do it because there's no chance of killing our sons if we do it any earlier because of the way the blood is and the way it does this and that. And people who did the circumcision before the 8th day, their sons may die because the blood doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and medical science didn't find this out until
Roy,
centuries later.
I gotta cut in and point something out. There's one thing that I've always kind of cracked a joke on about in my hangouts, and I thought for once I was going to be able to have a hangout in which dicks weren't brought up at all, because it's me and you at this point, and somehow they still came up.
This is Shadow. This is what I love about you. You are so good and so witty. And I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but when I want to get engaged in a relationship or in any kind of talk, it's got to be fun, funny, and fruitful. And you just met all three of my criterion with that particular. Yeah, I love that. That's that is good. I haven't heard that before. I will laugh at that.
But yeah, there was a hangout that I did talking about The Secret a while ago, and now I was going to poke fun at this one individual that his video was, what was it? It was how to be attractive, and it was basically how to attract women kind of thing based upon The Secret. And this guy looked like, do you remember the old movie Nosferatu?
No, I can't say as I do. No.
Yeah, well, anyway, he looked like the vampire out of Nosferatu. The scary, big teeth, big bulgy eyes, pointy ears, bald head. Yeah.
Yeah. Bela Lugosi type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, prior to that, but he actually looked like the vampire out of that movie, so I had to crack a joke with. So I was doing this to crack a joke with that. So it was an all-woman hangout, all women, no men whatsoever. And I'm thinking, I'm finally going to have a hangout in which there's no penises. Reference. None whatsoever. Finally, I get a chance. It's one that's not going to really see the light of day. It's something that's going to be kept offline. And lo and behold, Queenie chirps in with, "I want a penis." A room full of women and penises still came up, and I'm like, what the fuck? Come on! Not a single one. There's no Carson, there's no Lenny, no, just still the Venus. Can't escape it. And unfortunately, it occurred to me I was going to play the clip for the heck of it, but I realized, with my current sound configuration, I can't, so to heck with it.
Yeah, no, that would be great for another day. Think about that when there's a little lull. It's like I'd love to see that. That'd be great.
Now, anyway,
listen, here's where we are.
We've hit a wall, I think, with our disconnect, though.
Well, and we were going to, and we both knew that. So, but I have gone this road with you before. I've gone this road with other people before, and I can learn. I can learn some of the perspectives that I've never held and thought about before. Now, not to say that I will ever change my mind on this or make a
I have a question for you. I have a question for you, though.
Sure.
If I could find the name of the book that I was referencing earlier with somebody that squared Genesis with things like evolution and modern science and what have you, would you be willing to read it?
No, but you can do like what we're doing right here in a hangout. You can give me bits and pieces of it, because on my own, no, it's just boring to do that. But in the interest of educating other people and having it so that we can refer back to it, I would,
strictly speaking, this isn't a science text. It's a book written by a Christian apologist that's trying to square what we know about science with the text. And it was actually written a bit of a while ago. It's not like, it doesn't get into like hardcore science or anything like that.
Yeah, well, earlier in Nate's hangout this afternoon, I asked Becky was her name. I don't know too much about her. I don't know her credentials or anything like that. But they say creation science. I don't know who they are.
Jade is a nice old lady, old woman that's she's in my circles. I've known her for a while. She's really sweet, and she spends way too much time looking through the scientific papers. She's self-taught, but she has quite the repertoire.
Okay, so I have nothing against science, but what I have against people who use science. To fool us, to lie to us, and to say things that aren't there just because they have all of this science babble going on that they think they can pull the wool over our eyes. That's what I'm against. So, as far as creation science as a term is considered, I've heard it before. I've Googled it. I don't know anything about it. I don't want to read scientific paper after scientific paper after scientific paper and try to make up my own mind. Have you ever heard the term creation science, and do you know what it means? And if not, we'll move on. If so, I'd like you to enlighten me what you do know.
Creation science, yeah. It's a bunch of people that are going through and trying to come up with a way to shoehorn God notions into science, and it's, frankly, the majority of the attempts have been pretty darn pathetic. Instead of sitting there and offering solutions to potential problems or what have you, what they do is just try to poke holes, and they have no explanatory power in anything that they're presenting. So it's pseudoscientific babble at that point. I'm going to give you a vague analogy. My current thing with the power of woo is going after this whole Kundalini yoga crap. Well, when you look into it, and you see what's the symptomology and this and that, what's happening, these people are causing injury to what's referred to as the vagus nerve. It's the 10th nerve coming down from the brain. And they're claiming it's some spiritual awakening, and it's perfectly fine that you're completely fucked up for a couple of years thereafter. Don't go see a doctor or a shrink about it. Just accept that it's some kind of spiritual awakening. There's a problem with that, obviously. Creation science is a similar kind of thing. It's like, well, let's just sit there and claim that there's some grand spiritual thing here and pretend that the science doesn't exist. And that it's really just denying varied aspects of science. And we're talking beyond just, evolution. We're talking genetics, we're talking biology, a lot of other stuff. It's a problem. And incidentally, to Christian Smith, no, I did not say cunnilingus. Oh shit, now I did. fell for that, didn't I? Not well. Incidentally, once again, just for the sake of the people watching, right quick, if you go to my Google Plus page, you will find a link that goes here. I posted it a little while ago. Feel free to join in if you'd like. Sorry about that.
How many people we got? Are you looking at the page? How many people we got watching?
Yeah, we got 11 watching. It's been flickering from 10 to 12 for the last few.
Well, I would like to say, come on in and share your thoughts, share your beliefs, share your knowledge.
I'm getting the feeling that they're just enjoying the two of us going back and forth.
I for one, would love to hear, whatever they think. I mean, we'll both pause. Because see, for me,
actually, on the thought of we both will pause kind of thing, the discussion up to this point, most of the things that I've referenced would give other people pause, and the way you're holding to your guns on this has me a little bit surprised, and I'm not sure whether that's a compliment or not.
I don't know how to respond to that, so I won't.
I don't know whether it is or not, so and I'm forewarning you that so you don't potentially step into something that somebody could interpret as a pit snare. So we'll just keep that. Just say, okay, there's a little loop on the ground there. See that there? Yeah, that's going to fling you up in a tree. Stay away from it.
Yeah. No, it's like, I mean, you've seen some of the people respond to me, react to me in various hangouts, and whether they're new or not or whatever. I mean, so not to reopen this, but just to kind of give you my take on this, because earlier tonight, for the very first time, I saw somebody in the hangout that I never seen before. He engaged me, Sai. He engaged me in conversation, asked me a few questions, and it turned out to be something really pleasant for me to go into. And I love
Sai's fun. I really like Sai. He's actually been one of my old shuffle buddies.
So he, he's very personable. I mean, he let me know some of his background without me even asking him, and he let me know that he'd watched me on several different hangouts, probably an accumulation of about 24 hours, that he had the advantage over me. He knows how I, speak and answer and think and that, and I'd never been in a conversation with him before, so,
and then we also had the fucktard in the room that was insisting that the only thing you should ever ask a theist is if they can prove God, yeah.
And then we had Down in the room who wanted to ask me questions, but he wanted to ask me questions that don't mean anything. So, and I got frustrated with him continually asking me, even after I made a joke about it and said, I really don't know, but maybe he had a long straw. Okay, and so.
Yeah, and he was trying to use the straw thing against you. He thinks that he had a straw. Oh, come on, dude. He was.
Goodness, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I see that I can't go, the serious route with you. I can't go the silly kind of fun route with you because I think you're trolling me, but I don't want to necessarily say that out loud.
I was
but
more
now
than
it's
happy
evident
to.
If other people see it, and it's not my first conversation with Down. He just
I had fun throwing them out of the room. I was waiting
listen
to
to
do
me.
it.
I'll never forget what Shanna said to me one time. We were talking, just me, her, and I forget who else was in the room, but the conversation was basically me and her going back and forth, and I said, I really don't get why people are so angry when I open my mouth and speak the truth.
Well, the thing is that, it's your truth, that doesn't necessarily mean it's somebody else's truth. That's...
Here's what she said. Here's what she said. Let me
okay,
say
go
this.
for it. Go for it.
Respond to that. She says, Roy, it's not you. They see what you're saying as being the words of Christ and Jesus, and that's what they oppose. They oppose Christ. They're against Jesus Christ. So they're going to oppose you because you're his ambassador. And I said, I knew that, but I didn't think of that, and it wasn't on my frontal lobe. And you're right. And from that moment forward, whenever somebody engages me like Down does, I know that. He just has such a disdain for Christ. And it's not even God, because I don't think he does this with Muslims. I don't think he does this with anybody else who has a different God. I think he does this with the God of the Bible because he knows which God he hates. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I just thought that that's what was going on there from him. Maybe not so much from, Sai, because he believes the same way. He told me, he used the word anti-theist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I don't think you can get any more to the left than anti-theist as I am all the way on the right. I can't get any more on the right. I don't know if there's another space more to the right, then I want to be there, but I don't think there is. So I'm all the way to the right. He was basically all the way on the left, and so was the other guy down. But as Cy said, it's the tactic. Down, it's your tactic. You're not going to get Roy to open up. You're not going to be in a civil discussion with him because you don't leave any room for that. At least I left room for that. And he was seriously, you know,
when I'm sitting in a hangout with somebody that's insisting, regardless of what anyone else says, that everyone that's religious is suffering from a mental illness, they need to go fuck themselves. As far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I would never say that of an atheist. I would never say that of a theist. I would never say that of anybody who believes in, you know, Thor or whatever. No, it's like you are free to believe in whatever you want, and you don't have to be insane to do so. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You know, and how do I know you're insane? Is when you start talking about stupid stuff beyond just your beliefs. You know, when we're talking about everyday mundane things, and now you're way out there. Now I'm beginning to kind of maybe think you are. You know what I'm saying? But not just because of your beliefs.
I mean, that's the thing is, some of your beliefs you hold on to the point that, frankly, at times I want to just throttle you. I still like you, but I admit to that too. But
well,
you know, that's okay. I mean, I'm sure there are times that I frustrate you to that point as well.
Well, if I'm honest, I would say ditto. But you know what? I cut you a lot of slack, and you know that. Well, you may not have hit it off with me right away, but I hit it off with you right away. I said to myself, you know what? There's an intelligent guy. Just because we don't believe the same doesn't mean.
Oh no! The first conversation you remember having with me.
Well, it's my view, right? My view was just not the same as yours. I don't know how you could get what you got, but anyway, you got it. So, but it's okay because, look, we don't have to view and have the same perspective. We just have to just acknowledge that, you know, we're people just like everybody else, and you know, we're on this planet experiencing basically, you know, somewhat the same reality, and we just need to make do the best we can, and hopefully we'll leave this place a better place. At least, you know, our world will leave a better place, and we'll be missed when we leave this planet. You know, it's like, where's Shadow? Oh, I miss Shadow. Where's Roy? I miss Roy. You know, if we can do that, I think we've done okay, and wherever we end up.
Well, let me cut in for a moment here. I did actually just type this in there, but I want to make a point of clarifying something. On my old 13 Heathens channel, there is a video up there in which I talk about the relation between religions and mental illness. That there are a lot of religious groups out there that, for example, in the case of schizophrenia, they will sit there and claim that this person is either hearing from God or is possessed or what have you. And that's where the problem comes in. With many other mental illnesses or not, sometimes within religious communities, they'll regard it as either being something sacred or something that's demonic based or what have you. And that's where the problem comes in. It isn't that the religion itself creates the mental illness. It's that in some cases it, so to speak, shelters or even encourages the mental illness or treats those with mental illnesses in ways that no one should be treated. And I'm talking about this exorcism crap that you see that has caused so much harm to so many people.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, if they're approaching it from that angle, cool. But no. Claiming that everyone that's religious is somehow mentally ill, go fuck yourself.
Oh, yeah. That's, you know, what do you think is really going on there? They have such a hatred that they've lumped every religion into, I mean, look, here's what I believe. And I know people on the opposing side, of course, they get their feathers ruffled. I believe that God says it to Job, were you there in the beginning when I created the earth, the heavens, and everything in it? And of course the answer is, no, I wasn't, and no one was. So just stick to what you know is basically what I'm hearing him say to Job. Stick to what you know and what you don't know. You can speculate all you want, but it's not a fact, and it's just a religion, or it's just a belief, or if it's just by faith. So I believe by faith God did everything, and some people believe by faith that God did not do everything.
Yeah, and,
so
but when you're talking about mental illness, though, what you're talking about is people that we're talking about extreme cases here. We're not talking, you know, somebody believes something that's a little bit odd or what have you. When they're talking about delusions, they're talking serious shit, man. You know,
well,
they're talking serious shit.
Right. It's not only about religious things; it's about all things in their life, right? Shadow. I mean, that's what makes them mentally off. Is that all things they don't look at the world. They don't even know. Sometimes their own people, their own parents, their own kids. Sometimes, or right.
I don't know, man. I mean, when I started participating in the atheist community, what I expected was a bunch of people that see things in shades of gray, not black and white thinking. And every time I see somebody in the community that thinks completely black and white, it just drives me up a fucking wall. Because isn't that part of what we were trying to get away from when we fell away from faith? I guess I'll use that. I've been talking to you too long if I'm calling it falling away from the faith, haven't I? Holy crap.
No, maybe it's a Freudian slip. I don't know.
No, it's because I've been sitting there. Okay, there have been people that have accused me of being an accommodationist, and you know what? They're right. I'm perfectly fine with making accommodations for the sake of being able to have a civil discussion. For the majority of the time while we were sitting there discussing things like Genesis and what have you, I was trying to speak to it from a Christian framework. Now, granted, to me, the word God doesn't even really have any real meaning, and I have very strong views that I dare say are almost dogmatic pertaining to the question of whether God exists or not. But at the same point, I'm still able to entertain the notion, if God, then, and try to take on enough of that Christian framework to have a discussion like this. And I think that's vital at times. I mean, well, at this point, I just refer to that. I have no problem with that.
Right, there's some soapboxes we just keep discussions. We can even still like. Here we are, I don't know how long we've known each other, 1.5 years, 2 years. I've never said, okay, Shadow, I don't have anything to talk about with you. It's like, we can always find something that you don't talk just to hear your own voice.
Okay, Roy, just rein it in.
I agree. I do. And
wait,
like I said,
hang on. I have to poke. Oh my gosh, between the two of them, nobody else is ever going to get to speak.
But have you noticed how it's going, though? I mean,
you've been good
today,
so far. Yeah, you've been good so far in general.
How soon you got there today, but enough minutes, and I talked 30 seconds. And then in the other, this is not my topic. I'm not talking. I'm not saying anything on the line. Totally engaged in what was going on. There were no people I needed a couple of times in what was going on. That might be your cup of tea, but not necessarily.
I'm sorry. I'm going to cut in for a moment here. I did get in which was asked. When you reference God's, okay.
Bring that self in here and ask me this question because.
Hang on, voices. He says God literally hear God speaking.
The Bible says that I will hear Jesus' voice. I am his sheep. It comes through Shadow here. Absolutely. Would it be God's voice? So when someone speaks, okay, so the Bible says, how do you exercise your faith? How do you gain faith? Every time you hear the word of God, you're incredible truths with me. From a perspective, I've never heard them before.
Claiming all the answers here. I'm saying it could be either or either. You're saying it is God. It is God. You're the one who is
saying that's not possible.
I'm not saying it's not possible. You're saying it is God.
Then why are you saying
either way?
Then why even bring it up at all?
Because you're claiming it is God. I'm saying it could be either or either.
And you have a problem with the truth. Is that right?
Okay, I'm going to throw a little something in here. One of the views that my wife promotes is that, so to speak, God can communicate with her any way he wants, whether it be through radio or a song, whether it be something not Christian music, just any song, any book, any whatever. Now, I would equate that to a sense of the divine, whether it be the divine in us or the divine of some being or whatever. So I understand what Roy's saying. Now, I agree that there is potentially a level of confirmation bias there, but with him being a believer, I expect that to be there.
But how would you recognize it? Otherwise, you're saying that everything you experience is from God. Everything. So how would you be able to falsify that?
That's like the key question.
How would you say that wasn't from God, that was from God, that was from God, that wasn't from God? I'm not speculating either way. I'm just saying, how do you do that?
Okay, how do you differentiate, Roy? There's the real core question.
Yeah, if you would have been in the room earlier, I just could play that soundbite over again. Okay, so you either study the genuine or you study all the counterfeits. Which is easier for you, Christian?
No. Here's the thing: is you say that, but how do you personally, in your daily life, when
you don't understand that because first you don't acknowledge God.
On that. My parents had sex.
Kind get here, of which you are a part of.
Are you taking it from a logical or neutral framework?
In the beginning, God, or you start with in the beginning, not God. Which do you ascribe to?
Roy, you need to add the in the beginning. I don't know. You have to add the I don't know.
Exactly.
In there.
That's exactly what I was
doing. Information. Then why are you in this conversation with me?
No, come
I don't know
man.
what you're talking about. You're deflecting.
Well, okay, listen, wait. If
Roy,
you don't know what I'm
nice.
talking about, let me tell you. Wait. Let me please. This is where I get tripped up. Okay, listen. You want to take your know and what you don't know. Do you
I didn't say that.
Okay, let me asking you. Do you start off with, in the beginning, there was God, in the beginning, there was no God? And you say, well, I don't have enough proof. I don't have enough evidence. And then I'm saying to you, how dare you come into a conversation with me when I know in the beginning God? The truth. That doesn't make any sense.
Wait, to take a step back here for a moment. And the reason why is because when somebody says, I really don't have enough information to make a decision, I don't have a, there's that perverted
with me who does know. That's my point.
I think you're frightened. Me ask answers as regards to that when you hear things that they must come from God, or why is the question stupid?
No, if you don't know they're stupid, then I don't want to tell you, because I'm telling you, you don't know anything and I do know something. There's no way we can have a conversation. So I'm asking you, if you do want to have a conversation, I can turn this around so that you can still have a conversation with me even though you don't know anything.
So that means, AKA, I'm not going to answer anything. I'm going to turn it around on you and challenge your worldview.
There's no need to challenge my worldview. You don't know anything.
No, you didn't listen. Again, you didn't listen. I'm saying you're trying to turn it around to attack my worldview. I only ask innocent
questions. You have no worldview, my friend. You have no worldview. I asked you for your worldview and you have none.
So how do you know I don't have any?
Because you told me you don't.
No, I didn't. When did I say that?
You said, I don't know.
No, you asked me one specific question, which is not a worldview.
Okay, I'm going to be quiet. You tell me your worldview. Go.
With regards to what? You need to define what a worldview is. If it's all about God and that's all you're interested in.
Step in here. I'm not going to entertain this. I'm telling you, I'm not.
Because you're afraid. You're very afraid. I only ask an innocent question. You can't back it up. You need to turn it around on me because of cognitive dissonance. You're very afraid of being confronted. And I've seen this in many hangouts. You get very, very upset, and I haven't attacked your worldview once. Play this back. Haven't done it. I don't even know what your worldview is, to be honest. Crickets. Yeah, I think he's done with me because he can't handle the truth. Jack Nicholson. Either that or he doesn't like the cat.
I think there is a chink in the armor. Was that a joke?
What was it? You're going to respond now, are you?
I am, because I think there's a chink in your armor. All right, let's start over, yes?
So you're going to not answer anything and direct the questions to me again?
Okay. I'm going to ask you a simple question. Do you want to start over, yes or no?
Can you answer my questions first?
Shadow, I'm done. I am so done, Shadow. Step in.
Questions answered, 0.
Oh, I didn't notice Shadow's AFK right now, so he's he'll be back in a little bit. That's why he hasn't been answering me. So I was wondering what's up, because I don't watch the screen. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Christian. How old are you? Where are you? And what is your worldview about where you came from? How did humanity get here along with you? Start there.
Sorry, I missed some of that. What was that again?
Yeah, tell me a little bit about you, like where you from, how old are you, what's your worldview on how you got here, how humanity got here, stuff like that. And you have the floor.
So can we replace worldview with how humanity got here and how I got here? Because I think worldview is pretty big. You know, I have a broad range of things, not just a theist. You know.
Yeah, tell me what you believe. Tell me what you believe. Tell me what you.
As far as God's concerned, or just right. What I believe in general.
I don't want to know what you don't believe. I want to know what you do believe. So start there.
Okay, let's take the God claim. I don't believe that any gods exist. That's, I guess, possibly you could possibly say it's my starting point.
Don't say I don't believe. Say I do believe. Tell me what you do believe.
I do believe. I do believe that there's some kindness in the world, and I enjoy certain things about the world. What else do I believe? I believe things would get better eventually, will get better eventually. I think we're on an upward track. I think ignorance and religious ridiculousness is on the decline. I think atheism is in the incline, or non-religious religiosity is on the incline. I think that's a good thing. I believe that's a good thing. You know, the less things that we believe that are harmful, the better. I don't know, what else? I mean, am I fitting the script yet?
Yeah, do you have a purpose on this planet?
My purpose, I would say, is to try and make my life and people's lives around me the best that they can be. I'm going to live for a finite period of time, and I'd like to pass on some goodwill and charity to people, and hopefully they perpetuate, and the species as a whole perpetuates, even if I'm not here to experience it.
So if you're not here to experience it, where will you be?
I'll be in oblivion. Nowhere. Nothing. Same as where I was before I was born.
And you know this for a fact? You know this to be 100% true, or are you just speculating and you just believe that?
Well, I guess, I mean, I don't have any fact as far as, you know, I've never been dead and went to the spirit world or anything weird like that, or, you know, but I don't have any reason to think that there's some sort of life after death. I mean, where were you before you were born? You didn't exist either. After you're dead, you won't exist either. Time is irrelevant to somebody who doesn't exist, so I really won't be thinking anything after I'm dead.
Right, and this is all speculation on your part. It's all belief, right? It's all by faith you believe this.
Well, I don't need to stretch.
You have no empirical evidence,
and, you know, come to that. Well, anything else would be a stretch. I'm only going on the fact that, you know, if before you were born you didn't experience anything, and after you're dead, you probably won't experience anything either. I don't have any hard evidence. Of course, nobody has any hard evidence of that.
Right. So everybody takes it by faith on what happens to them after they die, right?
I think so. Unless you, you know, unless you come back to life for some reason.
Right. Yeah. We're on the same page. So, you know, I always like to start off with people on the same page. I've never interacted with you that I can recall. And so if we're going to get on the same page where we can have a civil discussion and not let the best of us get you know, it's like I can't talk to a closed wall. I have to have the opportunity to find common ground. So the common ground that I just found is you don't know what happens to you after you die, and so you have a good guess. I don't know where you're getting this from. You're not getting it from the Bible, obviously. So You don't
Well, it
believe the
wasn't.
Bible's version of.
Let me
Okay,
let me
finish.
let me just
I'll give
expand
you
on
plenty of time to
saying you
talk.
don't know where it comes from. I was going to tell you where it comes from. I wasn't indoctrinated to any religion, so I don't have any basis for that. I'm coming from a purely clean slate.
Okay.
Clean slate.
One
Nobody
thing
indoctrinated me.
One thing I want to ask of you is that when I'm speaking, wait till I'm done, and then I'll give you the floor. You'll have as much time to speak as you need, because there's nobody else here doing that. But when you start talking over me, I can't even hear my own self think. Would that be okay?
It was just that you were making a claim that where it come from. I just wanted to clarify where it come from.
Right, and I wasn't done, but I'll give you a chance to say again, because I didn't hear a word you said. So don't say it until after I'm done. So you made a claim that is based on faith and belief on your part of where you will be after you die. That's just you. You can't speak for me and say I'm going to be in the same place as you and meet the same type of situation as you after I die. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not as arrogant to try and claim what I believe to other people.
Okay, good, wonderful. So you could do that if it was true, but if you do that and it's not true, then that's not right. So.
But how would you know if it was true or not?
Because God told me.
What, you personally, or what?
Oh, absolutely.
So I should take on board what God told you personally?
No. But where did you get that?
Well, you're saying. I said, where did you get that from? You said God told you personally.
Right. Did I say that this was something that you need to believe?
Well, okay. Maybe I went further with that, but where should I get that from?
You shouldn't get it from anywhere. You should just keep doing what you're doing, because obviously you like what you're doing, yes?
You're going to say I like sin or something, are you?
Like what?
You're going to say I like sin or something.
Oh, no.
I'm rejecting God in the unrighteousness or something.
No. There's no need for me to say that. You already know that. Here,
well, I don't already know that. What are you talking about? I don't already know that.
You know that because you just told me.
No, because I know where the pre-sup argument comes from. I've heard Arcane and those other douchebags make that argument.
Are you saying I'm just like everybody else you've already met?
No, it sounded like that's where you were going with that.
How did it sound that way?
And then you turned around and then confirmed it by saying that. How do you know that's where I was going?
Yeah, but you never met me before, right?
I've listened to a lot of your hangouts.
Okay. And so because you have, you are thinking then I'm going to talk like everybody else, or you've heard me say that?
No, not personally, no.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that. See, I just want to have a dialogue and a conversation with you because obviously, listen, if I ask you, why are you in these religious discussions? Why do you involve yourself in these religious discussions? What would your answer be?
Because I find it quite fascinating. Where I live, I've never heard of people who profess that Noah's Ark was completely real, or the Bible was inerrant. I've never come across that before. I think it's a real fascinating journey into psychology. Like where I'm from, people would call those people batshit crazy, and I would tend to agree with that, especially when the science disagrees with all of the claims. You're talking about 99% of the scientific community disagreeing with these claims.
Yeah, but science can't disagree with the origin of Adam and Eve, so we won't even go there. We'll just leave it right where it's at.
The origin of Adam and Eve, 6,000 years ago?
That's why science can't determine that. Okay, we're not going to go around in circles on that. I don't want to go around in circles on that. I know where that's going to go. But I am interested. I am interested to understand where it is that you live, that you think that people who believe as I do are absolutely crazy. I mean, where is that?
Australia.
Okay. So I know a person in Perth who doesn't believe as you believe, but believes as I believe. So is that a contradiction? Am I wrong? Or is this person lying to me?
No.
Okay, so then you want to revise your claim?
No, I don't. I said I hadn't come across them before. Maybe you need to start fucking listening.
Okay.
I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to paint me into a fucking corner. It's not going to work. I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said I hadn't come across it, and everybody I have met think they're batshit fucking crazy, and I stand by that. I think you're batshit fucking crazy for thinking that the fucking world is 6,000 years old, and there was a fucking flood. I think you're a fucking weirdo for thinking that.
Okay.
There's no evidence for it. There's none.
There is, but you just don't want
Where?
to see it.
Show me. Show me the evidence now.
No, you don't want to see it.
Peer-reviewed evidence.
Okay. Christian, you don't want to see the evidence.
What do you mean I don't want to see it? Like I have to fucking drink a green pill and see the evidence like the fucking Matrix.
Okay,
There is no peer-reviewed evidence. Science is not biased.
Let me say it again to you. Science cannot determine the origin of Adam and Eve. Therefore,
So what does that mean? Translate science is true because it's true. Is that what you're saying?
Therefore,
Adam and Eve is true
science,
because it's true.
Science is perfect in what it does. And science is perfect in what it can't do because it can't do what you claim it can do. So if you're saying a science can give you the origin
Of course it can.
of Adam and Eve, then
No. All it needs to do is disprove this flood story, which is done many, many times. There's
Science
no way
science can't do
humans
that.
are not 6,000 years old.
Science can't do
Evolution, geology and evolution. Just
All right.
prove it straight away.
Okay, I'm telling you I don't want to go down this road, but I would just want to point this out to
Of
you.
course you don't, because it's a ground that I have firm footing. You don't.
Okay, why are you raising your voice?
Because you're trying to twist and turn, and you got the gaps business.
I'm gonna go back to what you said earlier, and I'm gonna leave it right there, and then we're gonna discuss something different because we don't want to go down this road because you just get too heated. All right, listen. When I asked you what your worldview was, you said it was too general. Then when I asked you what you believe,
question was too
you
general.
tell me what you don't believe. And I said, no, please don't tell me that. Tell me what you do believe. Okay? So here's what I'm going to try to tell you. Is if you say that science is the reason why you're on this planet, and that you have an answer that science gives you, I would love to hear it. If
I didn't
you
say
don't,
that.
I'm sorry?
I didn't say that.
I didn't say you said that. I said if you would like to go down that road, because earlier I asked you, in the beginning God or in the beginning not God, and you said, I don't know. And now you're telling me that you do know about science. So I don't know what science tells you about God. And I would love to hear it, because obviously you know something that science is telling you, but is it telling you anything about God? That's what I want to know. Because you said you don't.
Well, science in general doesn't tell us really anything about God at all, because God exists in the illusionary. But no, hang on. But God does, not God. Science does disprove certain claims in the Bible. So if you're talking about the God of the Bible, we can actually disprove that quite well. Yahweh can be disproven quite well with the. Well, of course, you don't go down that road because you will lose.
Yeah. Science can't prove that God exists, and God doesn't exist.
Well, a God. I mean, let's clarify a God or any gods. I mean, other than those depicted in
So how many
certain
gods do you think there are?
Well, there could be many gods. I mean, humans have
there's
dreamt
only
up
one.
thousands of gods.
There's just
So
one.
you're asserting that, though. You haven't have to prove that. You're just asserting that.
Oh, I know that for a fact. Yes.
No, you know that for a fact, but how do you teach me?
I can't.
Of course you can't.
Yeah, God didn't leave it up to me to teach you. He left it up to you to teach yourself.
Don't you see that's the ultimate cop-out? Don't you understand that?
What do you mean the cop-out? Okay, listen.
Because you don't have to prove it. You don't have to prove it. If I don't understand it, then it's my fault. You understand? It's my fault. It's the ultimate game.
Okay.
Ultimate game that cannot be lost.
Okay, listen to me. Do you want to have a discussion with me, yes or no?
Well, probably not, actually. The way you're going.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. If you don't want to have one, I don't want to have one either. If you do, let me know, and I will show you what it is that you don't know.
I just think you're being pretty dishonest. That's why I wouldn't
And I
be
understand that.
interested.
And I give you that. You can think of me whatever you want. The problem is that all of your
God on your
claims are
side.
unfounded.
My claims are unfounded. I haven't made any claims. What are you talking about?
God exists to you, yes?
Oh, no, I'm just saying, can you? Oh, I'm not saying you could do it.
No, you're not saying that at all.
If it was possible, I'd like it, yes.
No, that's not what you're saying at all. I've already told you several times I can't, but you won't leave it alone.
Well, what the hell are we talking about then? You can't claim your beliefs whatsoever, but you're going to turn it around on me. If I make one slip up and misspeak somewhere, you're going to nail me on it. But I don't have this. Don't you understand? It's the ultimate game where you cannot lose. Because you just say, oh, well, I'm right because 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 I'm right.
Yeah, you don't know anything.
Could you be wrong, though?
I could not.
Well, there you go. Game over.
And could you be wrong?
It could not be wrong. Of course I could.
Well, see, if you
because I'm fucking honest.
All right, now listen to the fallacy of what you just said. You asked me if I could be wrong, I said no, and I asked you if you could be wrong, and you said yes. Now, you want to have a discussion with me who knows the truth, and you don't?
But how do I know you know the truth? You said you can't impart that to me.
Oh, my goodness.
You could not impart that knowledge to me. You have to be right because you say you're right.
Where is it written that I have to tell you the truth?
What do you mean you have to tell me the truth? I'm asking you as a fellow human being, if you have the truth, can you impart that knowledge? You said, no, I can't. I can't do that. I'm being intellectually honest and saying that I'm being honest and saying I don't exactly know if I'm true or not, if I'm right or not. I don't know that. You're saying you do have that. There's no more learning to be done. You're right. Everybody else is fucking wrong. I'm right. Everyone else is wrong. Game over. So what's the point? What's the point of engaging with somebody?
That's what I asked you initially when you started to engage me, when you told me you don't know anything. Now listen to me.
I didn't say I didn't know anything.
You did. You said you don't know anything about...
No. Clarify that in context. What did I say I didn't know?
Okay. You don't know anything about God. You don't know if he exists. You don't know if he doesn't exist. You have no clue. Is that a true statement, yes or no?
I don't remember saying answers to those particular statements, but it depends on the God you're explaining to me.
Okay, let me try again. I'll start over at the beginning. So, in your worldview, how you got here, how every human being got here, okay, starts off with, in the beginning, no God, or in the beginning, God. Which viewpoint do you hold?
I don't know.
Okay, so this is what I'm trying to tell you. You don't know anything about...
What's it got to do with God? What's that got to do with God?
Okay, okay, if you're going to make this really difficult for me to have a conversation with you, I'll bow out. I really will.
I'm sorry I'm not bending to your script, but I'm being honest with my answers.
If you're sorry, then just answer my question.
Are you saying he knows nothing in relation to the God question, or...
He hasn't even defined the God question.
He's telling me
he hasn't defined who God is. He just said, where did we come from? I said, I don't know. What's that got to do with God? We could come from friggin' anything. Like, what's that got to do with God, or his God, or any God? He hasn't defined it yet, so how can I have an answer?
In your absence, Shadow, I try to keep the conversation going, and I'm entertaining Christian as best as I can without it absolutely driving me nuts to go watch some paint dry. No offense. But this is just going nowhere fast. And so I just basically I'm taking him back to the beginning to find out if there's anything to talk about.
Yeah, I caught a little bit what was going on. I had to, my wife getting ready for work and all that. Have to.
Yeah. No, I saw
all that. But
as a matter of fact, I asked you if you'd jump in and help me because we're not getting anywhere fast. So go ahead and help me right now because I'll bow out of this conversation and let's see if a Christian can figure out why he can't speak with Roy.
Well, hang on, no, Roy. I've seen this. I've kind of seen this often, honestly. A lot of time when you're dealing with somebody that you haven't dealt before, you really go on. I don't know whether to call it attack or defense mode, man. But I've seen this before, and Christian did come in a little bit strong, perhaps. But wow. Saying you don't know anything. You should add a caveat as to know anything about what, and that's really right now what I'm hearing is him saying, "What the fuck? I know plenty of things." There are some areas that I don't have answers to, but
No, not that. I asked him about God. He says he knows nothing about God.
No, you didn't. No, you did not say that. You did not say that.
okay.
Rephrase it.
What do you know about God, Christian? Go ahead.
You said, what do you know about where we come from, where you come from? And I said, I don't know. That was the answer I was giving to that particular question. You did not narrow it down to either your God or any other God.
All right, so then just tell me what
you didn't
know
even
about
mention God. You didn't even mention God.
All right. I'll retract the way I said that, and I'm going to ask you differently. Tell me everything you know about God.
Which one?
Pick one.
Well, I've got to pick one now. So I've got to pick a God that I've got to answer a question to.
I believe he's referencing the Christian God in this instance.
Oh, Yahweh. Oh, okay. Well, what I know about Yahweh is that the way Yahweh is depicted in the Bible is impossible that he could exist because of the traits listed in the Bible and the different things that happened in the Bible, especially if you were taking it literally. If you weren't taking it literally, then it's possible, I guess, that God may exist, but I would need some pretty significant evidence myself personally to start worshipping that God.
I've muted myself in the hang.
So you're not ruling out the fact that the Christian God exists, yes or no?
Well, many times I said that I wouldn't rule out really anything. I mean, I'm not omniscient. It is, I guess, possible, but the Christian God, Yahweh, as depicted in the Bible, seems highly, highly improbable.
If you're not ruling out that he could exist, then could he also make himself known to me in a way that I could be absolutely certain that he exists?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Are you ruling that out?
No, that's definitely possible.
And if he has, then I would know what I would know according to what he has revealed to me, which may not have been anything that he revealed to you. So even though you don't know what I...
Okay, I'm muting the Hangout for a moment. They can't hear me in there. You guys can hear me. They can't. But when Roy starts getting into this know what I know crap, he drives me up a fucking wall. I'm going to let Christian just have at him for a little while. But yeah, I've seen him go down this so many times it drives me nuts, man. Back to the show.
Right now as we speak, but something inside me said, say this to Christian a little differently. So I just want to pause right here and ask you, yeah, did that come out okay, or do you have any critique on what I just said? Because I don't even know where the heck that came from, other than it came from God.
When you get into the know what I know, and you know, and I know, and this and that, it just starts sounding like, well, Christian, what does it sound like?
Gobbledygook?
I think that's the word I would have chosen. For a lot of people, now you remember that one hangout you were in with me, Roy, that you did now you didn't do it as bad this time, but on that one occasion you were like, well, if you know what I know, that you know that I know that you know, and then knew, and that at the end of it, everyone's like blinking, and I'm like, no, I'll talk, and I had to do pretty much the same thing in response, and you got
I love that.
I was the only one that had understood what you said.
I love that, actually. So I don't know, Christian, if you understand what we're talking about here, but I do that on purpose, not to double talk, because it's not double talk. It's just to see if you can track with me. So, Christian, bicycle's a hard word to spell. Spell it.
Oh, shit.
Yes, that's exactly
you really
how you
want me to
spell it.
spell it.
It's correct. No, I don't think it really does. I do not think he legitimately wants you to spell the word bicycle.
I spell it kangaroo.
I think the point is that some things are just not, more difficult than they should be sometimes, maybe? Am I guessing right?
Oh, look
exactly. That's my point. My point is that life is really quite simple, and sometimes we make it more difficult, and we don't necessarily hear what the person is saying, but we're hearing what we want them to say or think that they said. Earlier,
look, I would like if you had to come out and said, look, this is my personal revelation, and this is my proof of God, and I don't expect anybody else to take that on board. I'm never ever going to argue with you about that.
And you didn't see it that way. Why?
Because you were turning around on me. You kept asking about my
hang on.
worldview and my belief in God.
It wasn't really presented in that manner. That might have been part of the issue.
I didn't say those words, but that's what you're supposed to assume, yes?
Well, the thing is that, okay, keep in mind that there's a lot of different Christians that, and frankly, a lot of them take the same damn approach, quite frankly. And this is part earlier why he was anticipating where he expected you to go, because there are certain, I want to call them scripts, which is what he was accusing you of to a degree earlier, that a lot of Christians go by, that this, then that, then this, then that, and it gets to the point that when it starts feeling for somebody that's in a discussion like it's heading in one of those script style directions, that we're just like, oh crap, are they going to say this next? And at a point, you call the person out to see if they're pulling that on you, because if they're just going to do that, you know the conversation's pretty much over. And
Exactly.
And part of this was establishing that, and I'm sure on some levels you've seen that with some people on our proverbial side of the discussion as well, that you're like, oh great, it's going to go here next, isn't it? Then it's going to go there, and some of that is to try and derail that, to make sure that doesn't happen, because that just disintegrates into crap.
But Shadow, I want to point out that he didn't answer any of my questions. I come in with an initial question, which I goddamn can't even remember now, but I come in with an initial question, and he turned it around.
Hang on for a second. Hang on.
He turned it around immediately, and let's count how many questions.
Just let me ask the folks that are watching. Does anyone? Just let me ask the folks that are watching. Does anybody remember what the fuck the original question was? I can't exactly go back and look. Sorry, continue.
But I mean, I knew that's what he was doing because I've seen it so many times from theists, and let's really look at it. I mean, how many questions did I was posed versus how many questions he was posed, and he deliberately derailed it and said, well, I'm not going to answer that because it's going to go down a different path. Like I never said that once. I tried to answer as many questions as I could honestly, and then he tried to nail on my honesty. And this is what the fundamentalist theists do. They try and get you in a word game and try and attack. And I'm well versed in these word games, so I wasn't going to be trapped.
And that's
your first mistake is making.
Hang on.
Go ahead.
The thing is that we spend, everybody in this ridiculous great master debate community spend so much time expecting traps, looking for traps, setting traps, all this other crap, that it makes it hard sometimes to even have a conversation, because after a while you start playing chess.
Yeah,
I don't.
I agree with that, but I mean, but you got to look at it like how much game playing was I playing? I wasn't playing anything.
I don't know, man. I was AFK. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Well, you go back and watch it. I was being honest the whole time because I knew which answers, which questions that I could answer. I answered every one of them because I wasn't surprised with the question.
But here's the thing.
He was playing chess. I was not playing chess.
Here, let me explain to you exactly what happened. So you asked me a question that I said to myself, you didn't even buy me a drink, and you want to know this? Are you kidding me? What gives you the right?
Well, what was it? Wait, what was the question, man? What was the question?
What gives you the right to ask me this question, and you didn't even buy me a drink? So
well, he's not asking you to go home with him, is he? Come on now, Roy. I mean, what was the question?
And then I wanted to find out what he knew. I wanted to know if I'm talking to somebody who knows what they know. Because if they don't know what they don't know, then I'm going to answer them according to their own question that they've asked me. So when I found that out, it's like, okay, here we go. Here's a person that says, I don't know anything about God. I don't want to know anything
hang
about
on, Roy. Nuts to the wall now. Okay. Now you'll talk about things that you know. But when somebody else presents you with something that they know from what they've experienced and what have you, if it doesn't comport with your beliefs, you reject it offhand.
No, listen, this is who I am. I expect you, Christian, to let me be me, because I'm going to let you be you. Does that make sense?
I guess so, but I mean, it sounds like a Barney song to me. I don't think that. what you were doing, to be honest. I think
that's
you were
pretty
trying
simple.
to catch.
That's a pretty simple definition of what I want in a relationship.
I just think you. Well, let me finish. I just think you were trying to catch me in some sort of sound bite, and when you weren't getting the sound bite, you were getting angry.
Well, I have to actually take a moment. I have to take a moment after that thing. What basically amounted to, if you gotta be me, and if you gotta be you, be you. I've got to give a quick note to Cat Stevens and give credit where it's due.
There you go. Now, I'm not asking Shadow to, you know, back my play here, but if he remembers who I am and how I am, and I'm not this way all the time simply because the room doesn't dictate this for me to be like this all the time, but if there's very few people in the room like this, my initial MO is to get to know the other person. And I need to get a feel for who I'm speaking to so that I can answer your questions according to who you are and not who I think you are.
But you realize how when you initially start stating that, a lot of people are going to say, so he's wanting to get a better feel for me so he can manipulate. That's going to be the instinctive response that you're going to get from a lot of people.
No, that's not. Yeah, it doesn't matter if that's what another person thinks or the person I'm speaking to thinks. That's just who I am.
I just want you to be aware of that perception.
Just like you.
I just want you to be aware of that perception, Roy.
But see, it doesn't matter to me what you perceive. So all of them are false. All of them are false. They're all counterfeit. Here's the real perception you should have of me. Understand that Roy Montero knows who he is, and if I answer a heathen, or a non-heathen, I'm not going to answer them the same way.
Or even 13 of them.
Where you're coming from. If you're coming from a non-heathenistic perspective, then I'll answer you that way. If you're coming from a heathenistic perspective, then I'll answer you that way. I just need to know where you're coming from and who you are and what you're looking for in the answer, and I'll be able to deliver. And then when we get into a boxing match, before I even find this out, then I already know all you want to do is just argue with me, and I'm not in. Homie don't play that, and neither do I. So I tried several times. It was just...
No. You misrepresented my position numerous times. It's recorded. You numerously misrepresented what I'd said because it didn't fit with your set defense. I mean, you were on the boxing match. Don't try and project and say I was. I actually honestly had some honest questions at the start of it, hoping that you might give me some honest answers. I can go away and think about those answers. But you were very aggressive on the, straight away you were very, very aggressive, which put me on the aggressive, and I apologize for being on the aggressive.
And I apologize too. Here's what I wanted to say.
It was just, I mean, even if maybe I'm wrong, but that's where I seen it going, because I was misrepresented 3 or 4 times.
And listen, I do apologize for that as well. So, listen, I will give you props, as I hope you give me props, that I did keep attempting to engage in a conversation with you, and I asked you several times, do you want to engage in a conversation? May not have asked it exactly that way, but I was sincere in asking you, if you and I want to have a civil discussion, then I know how to start one. All I need to know is if you want to engage in there with me, because I can change my tune, I can change my perception in a heartbeat, okay? And you don't know that.
But do you understand that's what Side 10 does and those crowd do? They go, oh, well, okay, well, you're not willing to answer my answers the way you want me to answer them, so I'm going to pose to you, are we going to shut this conversation down? And that's exactly how I took it. You were saying, well, I'm not going to answer these questions. Are you going to shut this question? You're going to shut this conversation down? Like it's my fault that the conversation was shut down. It's not.
No.
It's the way you're approaching it.
I would never say that. No, I would never say that it was your fault that the conversation gets shut down. Here, listen, and again,
blah blah blah. Okay, I muted them for another moment. The runtime for this is going to be about another 10 minutes, probably maybe a touch longer. If you guys want me to continue it past the 3-hour mark, let me know. I might be willing to continue it up to another half hour.
If I assumed that you were that down guy and asking me these questions, like I said, you didn't even buy me a drink yet. So you save those types of questions for after you build a rapport with me and let me know you're not here to, just try to, ask me a question that will never be satisfied by you. right? Because you're asking me a question that I can't answer for you. So rather than answer it, I would just as soon say, can you buy me a drink first? Can we get to know each other first? And then maybe I'll see how sincere you are. And I guess I will answer it. Shadow, can you help me to say that any better than I just did?
I will let you know what my my kryptonite is, and that's simply somebody who a theist simply saying, this is what I believe because I believe this, and nobody else should believe it, but this is what I believe, and this is what I take as truth. That is my kryptonite. I will then no longer engage in any arguments with that person because I can't argue against personal experience, and which is I thought and hoped that's where you were going, and it never really eventuated. But if you ever had said that, the argument over. I will never go further with that.
Yeah, see, and I assumed that you already knew that. I don't know how long you've been in these heated discussions. I won't call them great debates. I call them heated discussions about religious studies or religious discussions. And I assumed you assumed that I knew as a Christian that I can't prove anything to you. All I can do is share my experience with you. And I thought you knew that about Christianity. But if you didn't, then I do apologize.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's the truth about Christianity. I think there's a lot of people that claim to be Christians who don't hold that, who think that everybody should believe the way they do. And I mean, well, let's be honest. Let's be honest though. You do believe in Noah's Ark and things like that. I mean, we can then look at science and go, well, we can disprove that. Then you'll have an argument about that. But if you said that my core belief in God is personal, that's a different thing. I'm not going to argue that. But if you argue things that are in the realm of physical realities, then yeah, I will argue that because yeah, if you're right, then there should be evidence for that, and there's not. So that's why I would argue that.
Okay, I have to jump in here with one quick question. That's Kaiser Kitty, correct?
It is, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was right. It's Kaiser Kitty. Sorry, wife asked. Sorry, important business for a second there.
Yeah, definitely. That's important.
Yeah, no,
I'm here to discuss, and I'm here to share truth, and hopefully be shared with the truth. And I will explore all claims that are truth claims, even if there's no basis for them from the other person, because that's who I am. I may not do it right then and there. I may not do it within a day or two or a week or two. But God will implore me that if something has been said to me that is true, then I know that I have assurance that the Holy Spirit will lead me into all truth. So it doesn't matter if somebody says it that I barely know. It doesn't matter.
Blah, 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 blah.
Truth is truth.
In other words, it doesn't matter who says it. Truth is still truth, no matter who says it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And so I don't doubt that you have truth to share with me. I just need to know where you're coming from first so that I can process it properly. I just can't go, oh, yeah, I assume that he knows this and he knows that and he believes this and he believes that. So I like to have a little bit of personalization at first, you know. I say, hey, I'm Roy from California. Where are you from? I'll try to get a feel for how friendly and how personal a person is. You know what I'm saying?
It sounds like a radio show. I'm Roy. Where are you from?
I do have my own radio show in my head.
There you go. But I mean, I wouldn't discount somebody that somebody might be telling the truth in your words, and you may discount them because you find them distasteful, and that's a real problem.
Yeah, and I totally understand that, you know, because not everybody is for everybody. I mean, some people may have already come with a bad taste in their mouth about me, and then all of a sudden it's like they're not meaning to attack me, but it comes off as an attack, and when I hear it, I just shut down. I don't want to go down that road. Do you understand what I'm saying? So usually I'll just shut down, or I'll say next, or pass, or hey, maybe it was a straw. I don't know. I'll say something funny after they already have heard me say, I don't know. Or they've heard me say, I do know, and here's the answer. And it's like, well, science says this. You know, I don't care what science says. If science says anything against God, science loses. It's that simple. And
yeah, don't you see that is a problem where you can't ever be presented with anything? Well, you can't. You're ruling yourself out. You can't be presented with anything that may be true, in your words, that may be true, true is true. But because it disagrees with your narrow view of God, then it's
Christian,
wrong out of hand.
Christian, you need to reel it in. What is a problem?
Reel what in? The problem is where you're pre-confirming something is correct without having all the evidence.
He is a presuppositionalist.
But you don't understand. That's not a problem. Why is that a problem?
Because you're saying that I could never be presented with anything, no matter how powerful. Because you said to me before that truth is truth. Well, I'm saying, well, truth may come in some package that you don't like the package, but it's true. It's true because it's true. So somebody comes out with some truth and they present something and it's backed up by multitude of evidence and peer-reviewed and whatever, and you're going to reject, you're saying, I'm preconceiving, I'm going to reject that out of hand because it doesn't fit with my narrow view, because not everyone agrees with you,
no, that's
and
not
that's
what I
fine,
said.
that's okay.
No, that's not what I said.
But you, okay, sorry, so let's rephrase. Would you reject anything that disproved your preconceived notions of God or religion? No, I'm asking you, would you? I'm asking you, would you?
I can't answer that question. I'll answer this question. Roy, if God said it and science proves it to be opposite, who do you believe, God or science? I believe God. Now, go ahead and see if that is a problem.
Well, it would be a problem if you were presented with evidence that did disprove what you thought you were told. Yeah, maybe you're mistaken. You're not. You're an infallible being.
How can I be mistaken when God said it? I don't understand that part.
Because how do you know God said it? You're not omniscient.
Because how do you know?
There's demons out there. You don't know.
Wait. I didn't even finish my sentence. I wanted to see if you could just wait until I actually say it instead of having a preconceived idea. Earlier I asked you, bicycle's a hard word to spell. Spell it. Now most people will go B-I-C. No, wrong. It's I-T. Now, please listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth, not the words that are in your head already. Here, I'll say it again. If God said it, and science says the opposite, am I going to believe God or am I going to believe science? I'm going to believe God. Now,
can I clarify?
How is that a problem?
Clarify.
Let me ask the question.
Well, let me clarify.
Oh my God. Let me ask the question. How is that a problem for me?
Okay, let me clarify.
Please.
Did God tell you or did God tell everyone?
Anyone who wants to read it, God will tell them the same thing. He's not going to tell you one thing and me another thing. He's going to tell us all the same thing. All of us are potentially his kids. He wants us all to be his kids.
That doesn't
He's already
really
told us all the truth. Okay, so if he tells it to me, he'll tell it to you the same thing. He won't tell us two different things. If you believe that God will tell me something different than you, think again.
There's kind of a little bit of a problem with that, because what people get out of reading the text, believers I'm talking about here, do come back with very different messages, all of which are attributed to God. How do you square that?
And I grant you that. Now, some of them are telling the truth, and some of them are not telling the truth. Would you grant me that?
I don't think that I
just
honestly
because you say you're a Christian, just because you read the Bible, just because you come up with an interpretation, doesn't mean it's God's. Would you grant me that?
I could grant you, but as to which one is saying one of them is not telling the truth would be implying that they're lying.
Correct. Or they're ignorant.
But if God's speaking a different message onto them than it's speaking onto you, I mean, let's reference Galatians 1:17, I think it is, where if you go back to the original Greek, it's not saying it. If anyone preaches the gospel on to you other than that which I, Paul, and my followers have preached on to you, let them be an anathema. But it's actually going back to the Greek saying that ye have accepted. It's talking about accepting of the word. It's in the word as it is spoken to you, as opposed to as it is spoken to everyone else. So it's talking about God and through the Bible, people being able to get different interpretations so it can speak to them individually in such a way that they can accept it, as opposed to this galvanized, this one specific doctrinal kind of viewpoint thing.
So you believe that different people receive different messages from different scripture?
Yeah. I mean, clearly, you can have 5 people read the same scripture and give you 6 different answers, and that's pretty much close to what Nate says. You used to be familiar with that.
And they're all true, correct?
How can they not be if it's the divine
Well,
word
if
coming
some
to
of
them?
them are diametrically opposed, then it can't be true. They're only all true if it is not diametrically opposed. For example, science says Noah's Ark was not. I say it was. And the reason I say it was is because I have to make a decision between God and science. Now, if I have to make a decision between God said and science says, science loses every single time. You know why?
Every time you say that, I think back to St. Augustine, who basically was scolding the Christians of his day who were going around saying the world was flat when everybody else, these other religions.
I would not have said the world is flat. The Bible talks about it.
Just hang on, please. The Christians of the day were saying the world was flat.
If I was of that day, I would not be saying that.
Roy, let me get to the point. So St. Augustine was saying, even the heathens know that that the world is not flat. Stop saying this. You're making us all look like idiots. And then he followed this up by saying God wrote 2 books. One of them was the Bible, and the other one was the Book of Nature. If the science essentially is telling us one thing, and the book seems to be telling us something else, it's time for you to reevaluate your understanding of the book. Because he also wrote the Book of Nature. So these are the 2 different books, and if there's a conflict there, you have to learn how to square that conflict. And
yeah, but I'm saying to you right now, those people who assumed that the world was flat were not told by God that the world was flat, because the Bible was the same back then as it was today, and it said it is not flat. So it's a good example, but it's not a good example for me.
It talks about things like corners. It talks about being a flat sphere. They had a reason based upon their reading of it to believe that at the time. Because it did not really state it was round. I mean, they had their reasoning for it. Now we have a better understanding. We've managed to square the text with that understanding.
That wouldn't have happened to me. That will only happen to people, because it didn't happen to everybody. It only happened to those who wanted to be led down that road, is what I'm trying to say. Not everybody on the planet believed the world was flat.
No, not everyone did. No, not everyone did. But what I'm saying is, based upon quite a lot of people at the time, based upon their interpretation of the text, as far as they were concerned, it was flat. It was flat with 4 corners that the winds would be unleashed from.
If God said, see, God's word never changes. I mean, let's talk about the currents of the ocean. We now know that the current have certain, the oceans have certain currents, and if you I'm not real versed in this. The Bible was first to say that before science ever said that. There's so many things the Bible says before science ever verified it, because science didn't know how to verify it. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is this: just because science says something, if it's in diametrically opposed views of the Bible, then I believe the Bible. And science will catch up to it sooner or later. That's what has happened.
St. Augustine would tell you that, once again, that God wrote 2 different books, one being the Bible, one being nature, and that you need to learn to refine your interpretations.
So I'm saying that the Bible says there's only one interpretation of the Bible, not your own, but that of the Bible.
What verse does it say that in?
Let me find it. I don't know it off the top of my head. I gotta go pee too. So
okay, we'll go. Go pee. Go pee. We're still on the air for now. I've only had one person ask for a stay of execution on me taking it offline. I'm supposed to take it off at the 3-hour mark. I will wait a little bit.
3 hours with you?
Yes.
Since the last one ended?
Yes.
Yep. Oh my goodness. See what you do to me, Christian? Oh my goodness, I thought it was only half an hour. It's all Christian's fault. I'm right back.
I feel privileged because I'm in Australia, so it's still pretty early for me.
Oh yeah, man. Well, that's the thing is, we do have a fair number of viewers now, not like huge amounts, but it's good for what I usually get. I usually don't get all that many views. I should have probably spent some time pimping, saying, you know, like, subscribe, or whatever the fuck. I don't know. It's a new channel. I'm supposed to do that because I couldn't bring over my audience from the old one. Varied reasons, evil X shit. But man, yeah, I had an hour roughly dealing with them. Then you came in. I'm like, oh, good, somebody else, because I was going to cut it at that point. But I'm like, good, somebody else to sit there and talk with Roy for a little while, let them have their time, and not butt in too much, because I tend to be the peacemaker in conversations, and meh, why not? Let it get a little feisty sometimes. As long as things don't get out of hand, I'm perfectly good with that, because I take a much different approach, and I think in the community, because granted I was ragging on some people for being really just, but at the same point, there is room for a little bit more of a feisty or aggressive approach, as long as you're not just sitting there bombarding somebody with stupid questions. I mean, well, how'd somebody live 3 days in a whale? I don't know. How do they live 3 days in a whale? I don't fucking know. How do they live 3 days in a whale? They had a straw. I mean, at a point, it's like, you know, we say if somebody doesn't know the answer, they should have the integrity to say, I don't know. But then when somebody says, I don't know, you just keep asking the same stupid fucking question? Come on, man. But yeah, I mean, there's a point at which it just breaks down.
Saying that. But I mean, somebody that's obviously intelligent, like Roy, to just be, I'm right because God said I'm right. But people have said that through the ages. How would other people be able to recognize whether they are in fact right? Because he said it himself, truth is truth is truth. You know, no matter, you know, what somebody says about something, truth is truth. So how would I be able to identify truth from fiction by what one person says in an admittedly biased fashion? That's all. I'm being very curious. It's, you know, it seems very arrogant to me that somebody would claim to have all the answers and everybody past before them were arrogant or ignorant and didn't have the answers. And it's like, yeah, I mean, people 300 years from now who are Christians are going to say the same thing about you. They go like, what was so arrogant about that person who had all the answers?
And
what's wrong with having, you know, what's wrong with having God who God fits within science and things like that? I mean, I don't profess that, but what's wrong with that? Like, so what?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I do like Roy. I've had some interesting chats with him, but there are certain aspects of his theology that both frustrate me, as well as leave me sitting there like, wow. And that's the only way I can really express it. And oh, hey, Xbox, you're colored. How's it going? Are you actually here?
He's just finished beating his wife.
Yeah, he might have rejoined as just his little bot, as some kind of bot or something to keep the thing going. I don't know.
But can I?
Oh please, a new voice! Yay! You've been here for ages, man. How's it going?
Yeah, good. But if you know, I mean, if you know enough about science and know how things came to be, then perhaps Roy is not the best person to ask about that. And you can ask him about things that you are more insecure about.
Well, there's a lot of people that really aren't that interested in science. What gets me though, and this is one of the things, because I avoid science like the plague with Roy in the room normally. Today I took a little bit of an exception made a little bit of an exception with that. But he really doesn't have an interest in science. That's just not his thing, and I try to respect that typically.
Yeah.
But I mean, if somebody doesn't have an interest, they don't have an interest. You know, I get that. And as for see you in there, no, it's comment 3 hours later and no work done. No, I think in some ways a bit was accomplished here. We showed different tactics that you can use in discussions and whatnot, and I think it's been an interesting dialogue. Now, when I'm having a dialogue with Roy, I don't expect to actually get anywhere, so to speak. So for me, a victory is just having a conversation which his wheels don't just keep spinning and spinning in the mud, but you actually have some degree of a discussion.
Yeah, but where where I don't understand is somebody says I don't have any interest in science, avoid that topic, but then claim outright that science is wrong. It's like, no. Well, then you brought that topic into the discussion.
Well,
don't dare say that it's wrong and then say you don't want to talk about it.
It's not just a science thing. It's anything that he feels contradicts his read of the text. Science or anything else, yeah.
And that's another matter, I think. I think that is a more...
But you're much better off just saying...
to listen to, I mean, because... Yeah. I don't know.
You're just much better off saying that, I believe because of faith and personal revelation and whatever. That's fine. No problem at all. I'm not going to argue with that. But when they start challenging and saying, refuting science, I mean, people who give their life and people who have worked all their lives for these findings and just say, oh, that's all rubbish because it disagrees with my worldview. Fuck that shit. Fuck people who've given their life to this stuff. Like, if you don't want to talk about the subject, then don't have an opinion.
Well, I'm going to pitch this a slightly different way. Would you rather deal with somebody like Roy that just says, well, if it doesn't agree with my book, I can't accept it? Or deal with somebody like Nephilim Free that's going to sit there and run you around in fucking circles with bullshit, apologetics, anti-science shit? I'd rather Roy any day.
I honestly think they're probably both as bad to a degree, but I think Nephi would be slightly less to blame because he is trying to use science, even if fallaciously, but he's at least trying. He's not saying science is crap or whatever. He's trying to use science, evidentialism, to come to his position, where Roy is just saying, screw science. I mean, of course I've listened to Nephi, but I mean, they're both just as dishonest, really.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a little bit, I mean, you are very informed scientifically, so what's the point asking about things you know?
Yeah. Well, in Nephi's case, all his arguments have been countered on numerous occasions. I sat in like this 5-hour fucking hangout with him once, and we dissected every single argument he had. There was a couple we agreed to not disagree on, and a few that he just ended up dodging completely after he realized he'd pretty well lost. And by the time we were done with this, it's like, okay, there, we feel like we've gotten something accomplished. Next time out of the gate, he's using the exact same bullshit defeated arguments, and it's like, for fuck's sake, dude. I mean, why are you getting in these discussions if you don't care what anyone says? And I get the frustration of that. I really do.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, that is pretty dishonest, where you've been presented with refuting arguments and just ignore that and continue on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets frustrating at times. Now, there are certain people on here that the only reason to engage them is because they're comedy gold, like G-Man, for example, because he'll say the dumbest frickin' things. Yeah. And, when he is sticking to a position, it's not only something that kind of strikes us that don't have these beliefs as being, a little bit arrogant or what have you, but just plain fucking stupid. I mean, with G-Man at one point, I was in a hangout in which he was insisting man had knowledge of good and evil before they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And even when somebody read the scripture to him, he said no. Even when somebody that he was a buddy of his at the time came in, he's like, oh, Matt 419, you'll back me up. And he's like, sorry, brother, you're wrong on that. G-Man was just like, I'll make a video on it. And he's like, please, brother, just research it first, please. And G-Man didn't. He then made a video about a week later claiming that, stupid. And, I don't agree with Roy on a lot of things, but I can have a conversation with them, which is more than I can say for a good solid half of the theists on here, that you want to just choke them right out of the gate.
Yeah, that's true.
And I will give him credit on that, whether he frustrates me at times and whether he sticks to his guns to the point of me wanting to say, dude, you're just being, just stop for a minute and fucking listen. I can still have the conversation with him, regardless of how frustrated it is. At the end of the day, he's a decent guy that'll at least have a conversation with you, regardless of what you might think of his views or his beliefs or what have you. At the core, he's a decent guy. And he's not as obnoxious as a lot of the folks on here, even when he's at his worst. He couldn't even try to be as bad as, you know... So I'm good with Roy. I've always been good with Roy, exception for the first conversation we got in, which was Stiggy, Bruce Shepard, and myself were going after Bible Thumping Wingnut for his presuppositional shit, and then Roy took over. Then Roy took over the conversation. So I was gunning for Roy, and then the second time I met him, he wasn't in that mode, and I was like, Roy's okay. But that's the thing, though. I mean, in this fucked up, weird-ass community that we all reside in, there's so many people that you can't get, you can't get to that point that everyone calms down and chills out and has a real conversation, or even talks about something other than theology. Oh my gosh. I mean, I can't tell you how many times during, like, shuffles or whatever, when we're talking about movies or music or what have you, that we'd have somebody along the lines of All for His Glory come in there, sit there for 2 or 3 seconds, realize they're not talking about religion, and leave, because, of course, that's the only thing they have.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I like him a lot, but it's also the first, Roy, you're the first guy I met on Google Plus.
Balthazar, some people call me an acquired taste. I don't know if that's true or not, but what say ye?
But I wouldn't dare to discuss science with you. I mean, but
yeah, if science is right, I'm in. If science is wrong, I'm out. It's really that. I have nothing against science, but let science be right.
Your approach is so weird, man.
You don't like science.
I would ask you. I would ask you other questions. So.
Oh, if you want to step in, I will sit back in my corner and wait till I am needed. I'm happy to do that. I'm probably I agreed to potentially run it for about another 30 minutes. We're 16 minutes into that. I'll just see how the conversation goes, and I'm going to sit back and chill for a bit.
Hey, stop at any time you need to, bro, because yeah, I'm about ready to jam anyways. But if it gets good, we can just keep it off air. It's okay. I don't mind.
No, we're on. Don't worry about it. I'll run it a little bit longer. It's not like I have anything else to do.
Let me make my stand here, guys, in case you guys don't get it. I have nothing against science. When science is right, I'm all in. When science is wrong, I'm all out. What's wrong with that?
Because you said unless it conflicts with your God notion, then it's wrong, out of hand. No matter how compelling the evidence. That's what you said.
Yeah, but what's wrong with that? Just tell me what's wrong with it.
Well, it's confirmation bias. That's what's wrong with it. It's a fallacy.
Define confirmation bias and tell me you don't have it.
Well, something doesn't fit with your worldview, you reject it.
And tell me you don't have that.
I don't have that. No.
I see.
I openly admitted
what is your ultimate source of truth?
You show me some evidence for God, I would.
What is your single ultimate source of truth?
What single source of truth? Do I have to have one source? Do I?
Yes, sir. One source that you go to all the time to make sure that it's always the same.
Oh, one source of truth. I'm going to joke now and say Wikipedia, but that's
I mean, this is the thing: is people don't have a single source of truth as a general rule, and I challenge you to a degree on that, Roy, in stating that God's your only source. However, I know that you're going to say that your senses are from God, therefore God's still the only source of truth. Or at least I'm pretty sure that that's where you'd go with it. But most people have multiple sources of truth, whether it be friends, families, their own senses. We all have different ways of getting
Here's why I say that. So yes, Shadow, I would agree with what you said. So here's why I say that, because science, in and of itself, will tell you, and people who study it and share it will tell you, it's not 100%. And yes, science gets it wrong every now and then they have to revise. So if that's the best you got, I got something better. God says he is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and he knows everything. He knows everything there is to know about everything because he created it. Now, am I going to go to a Buick dealer or a Ford dealership and find out what's wrong with my car, or am I going to go to Pontiac to find out what's wrong with my Ford? Where am I getting the feedback?
Nadia, you're...
I think you may be feedbacking.
Ah, crap, I'm muted. Yeah, that was Nadia. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the fact that you say that that is better is really strange to me. I mean, science, yes. I mean, I wouldn't trust anything that was 100% correct all the time. I mean, something, we revise our knowledge and it's not biased. So we go, okay, this fits the best evidence. This explanation fits the best evidence, and we revise that as more information is known. What you're saying is that in 2,000 years ago, the evidence we had with God speaking truth, that's it. We don't need anything else. We don't need to know anything else. So you've just destroyed all science. So don't claim that science has helped you in any way, because you've destroyed science. Science doesn't work like that. It doesn't work on a
No. Okay, let me make a truth claim here. In the last 1,000 years, over 90% of all things, where I'm still getting feedback. In the last 1,000 years, over 90% of all discoveries, uncoveries, inventions have come from the Judeo-Christian community. There's got to be a reason for that, and there is.
Yeah,
God
but it wasn't
says that he will reveal. Let me finish.
Yeah.
God says that he will reveal things to his people when they, do what they need to do. It's conditional, and he gives people these opportunities so that mankind can progress forward. Now, with that being said, I know there's be a lot of people who challenge that, and I get it. I don't need you to challenge it. Here's what I'm saying. When science gets it right, I'm in. I'm all in. When science gets it wrong, I'm out. I'm all out. My question to you is, what's wrong with that for me, and what is the problem for me when you guys know as well as I do that science doesn't get it right 100% of the time? And how do you know what you're believing about science today, which is in opposition to God's word, is the truth? That just doesn't make any sense to me, and you call me crazy.
So, who wants to field that, because that's a wide open field there.
Knowledge exists on a sliding scale. Over the course of human history, we've been slowly moving that scale towards more and more knowledge and a greater and greater understanding of the world around us. Now, as we have slid that proverbial slider along the scale towards greater and greater knowledge, there have been times that science has been wrong and the sliders clicked back a little bit here and there on any subject in which we're gathering knowledge. Now, in terms of evolution and what we know about that, as well as several other areas of study, which interlink with others. For example, when you're dealing with evolution, there are so many other fields of science that actually surround it, protecting this theory when it all comes down to it. And I don't mean protecting it in some kind of sinister way, but in terms of that it's been upheld by all these other things. One of the most recent one was a little bit of a while back when we had the Human Genome Project going on, and we were working on sequencing the DNA of humans and other organisms. If evolution was going to be overturned, this was the top way it could have been done. And the only thing it did was help us refine it, because it turned out that there were a few things in terms of our classification that were a little bit off. So we managed to come to a greater understanding of evolution. It did not overthrow it, but helped bolster it and strengthen the theory. And this is kind of at the core of the issue, is that we have this slider, and yes, it takes a little jump back here and there, and then goes forward. It never resets. It doesn't go back to square one. We already have this immense foundation of knowledge that we're building on. And yes, it doesn't match with certain perceptions and certain interpretations of the scripture. Now, is this to say that the scripture is by necessity wrong? No. But what it does say is that perhaps the understanding that was imparted in those that initially wrote the text was not sufficient to the kind of knowledge we have today. If you're taken from a theological framework, you could say that God has taken his time to reveal these things to us through science. Or in the words of St. Augustine, that God has written two books, the Bible and science, and when these two come in conflict, you must revise your understanding of the scriptures. Because it's not God that's wrong, it's your interpretation that's wrong. But from a non-theological viewpoint, whenever somebody goes around and says, well, if this science doesn't agree with my particular interpretation of this book, it makes the believers look, well, I think you know the word that comes next. And I'm not gonna say it out of respect.
I appreciate you for that. You know I do. And it was okay if you would have said it, but, you know, it shows that you have respect for me. Now, if you have respect for other Christians or not in that situation or this situation, I'm okay with that. So I'm an individual, and I like to be treated as an individual and not as one of those funnies. Even though I am, even though I would say you're right, but you say it like that's a negative term. It's not. It's a positive term. So it's just the way you see something is the way that you will treat that something. So to address Christian's question in the sidebar here, you know, he said he translated, and yes, what you just translated in text is 100% spot on. I don't care what you call it. Call it whatever you want. You do the same thing. So does everybody on planet Earth.
Now I gotta share the
Either
screen
you go,
region. Now I gotta share that screen region so that people know what the hell we're talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah, please.
There we go.
Why don't you read it? Shadow, why don't you read it?
No, I'm just popping it up on the screen for them. They can read it themselves. I'm getting tired.
All right. So everybody does this, so I don't know why you're making the, you know, it's almost like saying, like, Roy, you're a human being. Every time I say something, yes, I am. Roy, you're not God, you're a human being. Could you be fallible? Not about this. Why not? You're a human being. It's like, if that's the kind of conversation you want to have with me, I'm out. I'm completely out.
Yeah,
So,
it's just,
okay.
it's projection. You're saying that I have the same fault that you do. I don't. I don't have that fault. If
Yeah, you
science
do.
was
Yeah, you do.
to, if
Wait a
science,
second.
if
Let me
science
finish.
was to come out
Let
with
me-
something that I had a preconceived notion of, I would move on and go with
me
what
finish.
science was saying.
Let me finish. So when I asked you for your ultimate source of truth, your single source of truth, you don't have one. I do. So
Why do I
if
need
God
one?
said it, say again.
Why do I need one?
Well, see, the first, the
You're
mere
saying I need a single source of truth.
listen,
Why do
listen,
I need
listen,
a single source of truth?
Okay, listen. I'm only going to say this one time, and then I got to go.
Mhm.
Here's the thing. In any other field, genre, whatever you want to call it, you would have to be right 100% of the time. Otherwise, you would think the person teaching it was crazy. For example, here is a math teacher teaching you math, and they're like, well, I don't always get it right, and I'll revise it when I don't, but, you know, you got to study under me, and I'm going to give you the formula for said problem. But if you're not right, you know, 100% of the time, it doesn't really matter because that's the way the world works. You would be laughed off of any stage. I would laugh at you, but not out loud, because I do have respect for you, because I know there's a lot of foolish people on the planet. Now, I'm not saying you're foolish. I'm saying I know there's a lot of foolish people on the planet. Now, the fool, number one, says in his heart, or her heart, there is no God. So if you don't start with God, then you can make this claim. Well, science isn't always right, but, you know, we're getting better, and, you know, it makes revisions, and we're doing the best we can. And while I'm sitting here saying, that ain't good enough for me, is there a better way? Yes, God's right all the time. And it's like, wait, if science doesn't match the scriptures, then, Roy, you're reading the scriptures wrong. You got to change the scriptures. You got to say a day is 1 billion years and not just 24 hours, dude. That don't work that way. It's like, wait a second. I'm being called crazy? I rest my case. Go ahead and talk, guys. I'm just going to go on mute for a second.
Okay.
I think that's quite a nice package that right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Incidentally, at this point, I'm going to draw to a close. We're pretty much done. Christian, you want to take some closing comments?
Well, only just to say, look, if you like Roy and you think that God's word that you've heard and your interpretation of it is infallible, look, let's not be so arrogant, and maybe there's some different answers out there, and what science is actually trying to do is not to try and prove 100% anything. It's a non-biased system, where he seems to come from a 100% biased system. So anything that's a little bit more honest than what he's trying to present, I encourage that. That's it.
Okay. Balthazar. I'll take that as a no. Nadia, closing comments, if any.
No, I just wanted to say I'm glad Roy is a Christian and not a scientist.
Okay, Nadia, got any closing comments for me? Dum 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 dum. Guess I'll take that as a no. Okay. Do you have any closing comments before I shut the sucker down? Because we are like at 3:30 mark almost. Actually, we technically are past it now.
I was actually bringing someone over.
Ah, shit.
Okay.
Oh, well, it'll still exist offline, but yeah, I got to crash. And I'm going to do my closing comments now. Let's see now. Give me a second. I don't know if my headset will reach. I don't need the headset for these closing comments. Hang on a second. There, I think I charged something loose. That should help. Anyway, for those that watched, thanks for watching. For those that participated, thanks for participating. Blah, blah, blah. I am out of here, guys. Now, how the hell do I end this fucking thing? Broadcast. Click the magical